Let's hop into it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the show. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. We got a fabulous, fantastic, enjoyable program for you today. It is a dark and gloomy and rainy day here, Sunday, August 23rd, 2026. Welcome back to the Blunt Politics Podcast. I appreciate you for joining us. Like I said, we got a bunch to talk about. We're going to be all over the place today. Lots to discuss. A few of the topics we'll be talking about in just a second. But what do you say we bring in the chat, say hi to you guys, because you guys always deserve some airtime. Like, you guys keep this show running. You guys make this possible, so you guys deserve the screen time more than I do. What's going on, everybody? What's up, Julie? What's up, Bonnie? What's up, Dame? What's going on, Tamra? How are you guys? What's up, William? What's up, Gamer? Good to see you guys. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. What's up, Roger? Wesley, how are you? What's up, Alvin? Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way in. Lady Muddy Feet, good to see you. What's going on, Slightly Mad Mom, Silver Dragons? Everybody, no matter where you're watching, what platform, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Substack, Kick, whatever you're watching from, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 25,000 subscribers. A big shout out to Jesse Dollamore once again. Thank you for for him utilizing his platform to uplift smaller creators and to talk about what's going on with the war in Ukraine. We've received a few new subscribers thanks to that. So if you're just joining us for the first time, thank you once again for taking the time out of your day on this gloomy, I don't know if it's gloomy where you are, but it's gloomy where I am. I know that for sure. So thank you for taking the time out of your day, sitting here, going through the news, going through the facts, listening to some opinions, talking to some fabulous people in the community there. If you could hit that like button and hit the subscribe button and that notification bell as well, that would make it all worthwhile. So thank you guys so much. Jupiter Judy, Corrine, Namaste, Kahuiba Man, what's going on? Left Wing Gorilla, good to see you. Great to see you. Jackie, you as well. Marcus, what's happening? Sad, what's that say? Sad U.S. attack. Hi from Michigan, good to see you. PB Lou, how are you? Aloha from Kona. Well, aloha to you. How's everybody doing? Pouring rain in Florida, says Wesley. Maybe that's the overwhelming theme going on in the United States today. Be kind and behave, says good to see you, Brian. Raining in Natick too. Yeah, we just looked like the skies and the heavens opened up. It was dark and gloomy earlier, but I don't think it was as wet as it is right now. But all right, couple of the things we're getting into today, couple of the topics. I'm sure you've heard some of them being discussed already, so we have to touch base a little bit. We got another 5 ships that were struck inside the Strait of Hormuz by Iran, something that you're not going to hear from CENTCOM anymore. You're not going to hear from the Pentagon. You're not going to hear from Donald Trump as he tries to distance himself and really kind of rely upon whatever economic threats he's putting on, that Scott Bessent's putting on to places like Turkey, Pakistan, China, Russia, and them, demanding they cut off all trade with Iran. So I want to bring up a little bit from, I believe it's a Fox affiliated channel, Live Nation, Alive Now, or something like that. But even they're forced to report on these ships that were struck, only do about a 2-minute report on it, if that. So, and then we have the Fox News General Keane, once again now forced to admit that the economic war with Iran is not going to be enough. So he's on with, I don't know, some schmuck on Fox News, but this is the guy that we've looked at, pretty regularly here in the last couple weeks, at least. General Jack Keane is his name. General Longface, if you've caught any of the the previous broadcast where we were kind of ripping on this guy, but he's gone back and forth, right? He's doing this dance where he's trying to do whatever suits the administration and whatever kind of, whatever way he can get out of hot water as far as the topic of this war is concerned. So, he was earlier on calling for further escalation from Donald Trump, saying that was probably going to be the only way for him to get out of this or to achieve victory in any way. Then he was talking about it was the Iranians that were most likely going to be trying to utilize acts of aggression, where Donald Trump was trying to back out of this whole war. Remember, he said he was trying to, what do you call it? I think he said he was low-keying it or something along those lines, as was reported by Axios and Barack Ravid. And then obviously we're going to call out a little bit more from the U.S. lies surrounding the extent of which ships are actually getting through the Strait of Hormuz, because Donald Trump and his whole administration want you to believe that the strait's wide open. We almost have as many barrels of oil and products traveling through the Strait of Hormuz as we did pre-war, and that's just not what the experts are seeing, right? They continue to say, well, it's because their transponders are off. Oh, it's because they're getting the ships out in the dead of night with the U.S. military. Well, these VLCCs are fucking literally floating cities, okay? So even with the, the transponders turned off, the imagery, like the satellite imagery, would be able to pick up these ships and even a lot of these smaller ships that are going through. So as they continue to tell you that some 15, 16, 17 million barrels of oil continue to traverse the Strait of Hormuz each day, the experts aren't seeing that. The satellite imagery aren't seeing that. And obviously the oil markets aren't reacting that way. So we wouldn't be seeing, last time I checked, and we'll check into it today, I think it was around 94, 92, 93, 94ish as far as the price of oil. Obviously the average between the two main ones. But that's not reflecting that, the strait is wide open. Wouldn't you think that, oil prices would come tumbling down if all of a sudden, things were, busting wide open again, and we had, 15 or somewhere near the millions of barrels of oil that were coming through the Strait of Hormuz before war levels? So we'll call that out. We got Mark Carney, obviously the PM of Canada, stating pretty concisely that the United States is basically at war with Canada, a trade war with Canada. And we'll talk about the businesses in the states that are going to be impacted. A lot of them in my area, a lot of New England states here rely heavily upon either Canadian tourism or Canadian business, especially as you get closer to the border, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, those states. And I'm sure as you go across the western portion of the country, anybody that has close ties and trade with Canada is going to be greatly affected by this, these new revelations here. We also have a Jonathan Pye video, who we tend to love on this show, and he's kind of filling us in on a little bit about this situation as well. I want to call out a Mark Levin. Mark Levin's that fat pudgy prick on Fox News that basically wears an Israeli jacket, an Israeli flag to work every single day. But he's basically now stating that blue states are the problem, if you can buy that, right? The blue states that literally keep the red states running in this country, right? Like we keep the states that take more from the federal government that they actually pay into, those red states, and then how the blue states, where they put into the federal economy much more than they take out of the federal economy, and how that is utilized to keep these other states running. Well, somehow Mark Levin's going to try to reverse that. It's going to try to flip that on its head and tell you that it's the blue states in this country that are the problem. Tim Pool, recognizing that the economic tipping point that we're at due to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and just the uncertainty and instability in the markets and with wars and everything else that's going on, directly caused by the person that he voted into office, directly caused by the guy that he simped for, directly caused by the guy that he helped get into his second term by lying, propagandizing, gaslighting, making things up about about Democrats and Democratic policies. So I don't know what kind of angle he's going to try to take as far as that's concerned, or if he's just doing the general fence sitting, right? General, okay, I'm on neither side, but I'm going to tell you how bad things are, like I'm not responsible type bullshit. And then we have some frontline updates from Ukraine. I think we have a few different videos, some updates about some possible good news that I think was reported last month, kind of being reiterated again by French President Emmanuel Macron, as far as interceptors and possible licensing, for Ukraine, as far as building some of these French-made European interceptors that are hopefully going to go in and fill the void left by the Patriots and THAADs that obviously Ukraine has run out of at this point. But if you could hit that like button, if you could subscribe to the channel, we have all those stories, topics, and more to try to get through today in our 2 hours, probably a little over 2 hours as we typically do. But yeah, if you could hit that like button and help us, kind of get boosted throughout the algorithm, that would be fantastic. The topics that we talk about, not necessarily ones that get boosted easily. And then obviously the fact that we're independent here. We don't show you any ads. We don't run any YouTube ads or anything like that. Typically doesn't go to help us with the old algorithm god. So if you could kind of help make up the distance there, make up the discrepancy in between, those two things, that would be fantastic. What do you say we get into a little bit of this? We're going to start off with, great question. Where should we start off today? Let me throw this on your screen. And then we'll start off. Should we just, I'll bring up this Fox Nation clip here, and we'll just talk about that real quick. I'll show you how they're reporting on it, and then we'll get into the, kind of the stories and the lies being told by both sides surrounding this. So let me throw this up here. Shout out to the mods as well. Appreciate so much for keeping that chat a safe, making this a possibility. I'm going to throw this on your screen. Hopefully it works. Here we go. So yeah, this is live now from Fox, as it's called. Obviously, a Fox affiliated channel here, Fox affiliated account, and they're reporting here, as you can see, on the 5 ships in the Strait of Hormuz that the Iranians have struck. As in the second part of that title is the U.S. talks stall. So there's absolutely nothing going on as far as negotiations. And as you can see, just above my head here and what he's showing on his screen, the very empty looking Strait of Hormuz, right? Ships, on the Iranian side, as you can see, not too many on the Omani side, which is supposedly that new corridor, that new route that the United States has been sneaking ships out of to try to stay away from the Iranian side of this, but looking oddly empty, compared to what it looked like before the war. So again, this is just like the first minute and a half, 45 seconds or so of their coverage, where they just briefly, very briefly touch on these ongoing strikes, the ongoing attacks, which are not being responded to by the United States, much like we were seeing those tit-for-tat attacks that were ongoing in the previous weeks. Well, now the Iranians kind of feel emboldened, as we've talked about on previous shows, because the United States has seemingly put their stance out there that they're not going to, respond to these things. The ongoing bombing campaign has ceased. They're now going to try this economic route, the economic World War II aspect, as they were calling it. So that's kind of emboldening Iran, as well as we continue to touch on and keep our feed based in reality, the economic pressures that Iran is absolutely facing right now through the United States naval blockade and just the ongoing war in general, their expenditures and everything else surrounding it. So they're absolutely feeling pressure. The inflation over there has risen dramatically. The way in which the people have to live over there, the instability, the uncertainty in what's going on. So there's a lot of economic problems. There's a lot of problems in general that Iran is facing because of this war. So I think on the last show we talked about, they're in this position where they have to decide, is it escalation that they think is going to get them, even more power, more respect, and finalize this war? Or is it now, recognizing that this might be the plateau of the power that they accrue, right? Getting out of this with some access, some control over the Strait of Hormuz, respect from people in the region that they now have to show to the Iranians based upon their, military capabilities, the willingness they have to go head to head with the United States military and the Israeli military, to be able to, withstand their bombing campaigns, to withstand their, the blockades and everything like that. So the people in the area, obviously their ability to affect damage on the U.S. bases, to strike into the Gulf nations, like that's going to have to be respected. So Iran has to make a decision. Are they kind of at that peak? Are they at that plateau here? And, some sort of negotiations would be the best way out of it, hoping to get the most in return, whether it be the frozen assets, the ability of, the ability to continue to sell their products, their petroleum products, the lifting of sanctions, whatever it may be. Like, that's the decision, I'm sure, that's ongoing in the background. But this is, again, some of the reports that you're not likely ever to hear from Donald Trump about how the situation with Iran and obviously in, more particular, the Strait of Hormuz is going. So let's just play, again, the first minute and a half, minute 45, 2 minutes of this, just to touch base on it.
Right now, on the right-hand side of your screen, you are taking a live look over the Strait of Hormuz. Of course, an image that's been very familiar as we near the 6-month mark since the U.S. and Israel launched the start of Operation Epic Fury there against Iran. Right now, I want to pop this up on your screen right here as we follow all of the latest. The New York Post now saying that 5 vessels were struck by Iranian projectiles over the past week, leaving 2 people injured or dead. The ships reportedly damaged, but not lost. We're also learning right now that Iran has...
So that was it. That's literally it. So that's 40 seconds. I thought I gave him credit. I actually gave him too much credit. I thought it was about a minute, minute and a half or so. 40 seconds is all this kind of like, I don't even know what this is. Fox affiliated channel. This is like this, like, I don't know, not parent, but like sister company or something like that. But it's like the ugly stepchild of Fox. So they've kind of been, the news is relegated to that, which they're showing it out there. That way they have some sort of like, they can always point back and say, oh, no, we did report it for those 40 seconds. It was on live now with whoever this asshole is that's reporting on it. You know what I mean? But yeah, so again, that continues to happen. And then we have people on Fox News. Let's go to this one as well, because this one's from Fox News and the general that we continue to call out. And he's forced here to recognize that even with the economic plan that has been put forth here by people like Scott Bessent and Donald Trump and how much he loves it, like even that isn't going to be enough. Like much like the air campaign, overall wasn't going to be enough to bring Iran to its knees or to activate the Iranian citizenry, to overthrow their government. Like it's going to have to be boots on the ground. To defeat Iran completely militarily would require boots on the ground. So the same way that air campaign was never going to bring Donald Trump the results that he hoped for is the same way that this, Fox News general is now forced to admit that even this economic war, the economic problems or the economic kind of plan that's been put forth by the United States is not going to be enough. And that's not even recognizing the problems with the plan, right? Like Turkey's not just going to all of a sudden say, okay, we're going to cut off all trade with Iran. Pakistan, not going to just all of a sudden say, okay, we're going to listen to the United States and cut off all trade with Iran. Russia, China, right? I mean, all of the different countries that have, trade agreements in some way, shape, or form with Iran would have to, from what the United States is now demanding, cut off all trade to Iran, to and from Iran. And I don't think that these countries that we're looking at are, we don't have good relationships with them to think that they're just all of a sudden going to bow and bend the knee to the will of the United States and then hurt themselves financially, right? Hurt their economies with, to varying degrees, depending on, how much trade that they had with Iran. Iraq as well, throw Iraq in there. So let's see if we can throw this on, because this is the Fox News general, again, forced to, at some point here, and he's on with, I think, Stuart Varney, if I'm not mistaken, forced to admit that even this isn't going to be enough. Like there's going to have to be talks. There's going to have to be somebody behind the scenes negotiating. We're going to have to, at some point, agree to something in terms with the Iranians, instead of, again, just threatening to go to war with, go to trade war with, at least anybody who does any trading with Iran in the future, which, again, involves some pretty high-profile countries: Russia, China, Iraq, Pakistan, Turkey, just to name a few. So, all right, let's get into this. I think this is about 3 or so minutes, if I'm not sure, of this segment that we have to dive through and call out. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. My name is Boston Brian. This is the Blunt Politics Podcast. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your dreary, fucking really dank, wet Sunday here, which it is here in the Boston area, and hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and watching a little bit of the Blunt Politics Podcast. So let's get into this and call out a little bit of this Fox Business Stuart Varney clip with General Longface here. As we call him on Fox News. So thank you guys to everybody contributing. I saw one go by there. Oh, thank you, AMZ. Appreciate that. Thanks, Brian. Oh, much appreciated. Thanks to you for watching this channel. Thanks to anybody else utilizing, super chats, super stickers. If you hit your milestone, make sure you stick around to the end of the show. We always, every single time, go through all of the contributions, whether they're, through Venmo QR code up in the corner there. All we ask for is $1 or $2 for this independent channel, independent creator, doesn't talk to outside sources, has no financial backers, has no dark money groups supporting or funding him or, teaching him how to do content creation or anything like that behind the scenes. So we try to do things the right way. So if you can utilize any of these different, routes and paths to send in a financial contribution, if it fits your, financial viability, your financial situation in your lifestyle, please thinking about throwing that in there. So, all right, let's get into this Fox Business Clip again. Stuart Varney with General Longface Jack Keane here. Once again, forced to admit that this plan that the United States has enacted with this, World War II-like economic trade war against Iran is even in itself not going to be enough to get us out of this war.
President Trump told Fox News this morning that the midterms have, quote, nothing to do with his thinking on the war. Trump said he has no time schedule and is not in a hurry.
That's perfect. I love it. I hope he continues to say that, too. That'll be fucking beautiful for us going into midterms. It's going to be really difficult for the Republicans to try to defend against that, not caring about the, again, economic instability, the damages that, American families are facing right now because of the drastic rise in the cost of basically everything that they have to need, that they need and use on a daily basis. You name it, and it's gone up in price. So the fact that Donald Trump continues to go out there and say, fuck it, I got time to waste. I'm surrounded by a pool of gold here in the United States. What do I care if we have to go another 2, 3, maybe 6, 7 months going through these economic problems, economic damages? I've made $4 billion in my second term. I can withstand it. But you the average American person, the average American family out there struggling to make ends meet, struggling to put food on the table, struggling to figure out how you're going to pay for the child care so that you can continue to work, struggling to figure out how you're going to fill up your gas tank tomorrow to make, to take the kids to soccer practice or to football practice or to hockey practice or to their field trip or whatever they have to go. The dentist, speaking of dentist, worrying about how you're going to pay for all of that if you don't have the appropriate health care, if you don't have the appropriate insurance, or you've been kicked off of your insurance because Donald Trump and his administration have basically made it so the not the loopholes, but the holes that you have to jump through, the hoops that you have to jump through, have been expanded. So a lot of people have been just ultimately kicked off of their health insurance coverage, even though nothing's really changed in their life, and they're even in more desperate need of that coverage and the assistance now than they were before and when they did have that insurance coverage. So continue to say it, Trump. Every time that you say it, we're going to reiterate it. We're going to highlight it. The Democrats should be making fucking attack ad after attack ad after attack ad with everything that this guy said. Paraphrasing, of course, when he said he doesn't worry about the financial situation or the pressures put on American families, basically saying the same thing in this sentence, just in a different way. He's got all day. Doesn't matter. He's got all the time in the world to waste. As many people are losing their homes, losing their livelihood, making cuts everywhere in their life because they can't make ends meet, trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, making sure, okay, do we pay the electric bill this month or do we pay the phone bill? Because we can't pay them both, right? Maybe we have to go without phones, can't go without internet, but maybe we can go without the cell service for a month. That way we can have the electricity on. Or, hey, maybe we skip mortgage payment this month and we make sure that we have enough food for the fucking kids, and then we'll figure out how we can catch up next month. Inevitably, just getting further and further and further in the hole, But all right, let him continue.
Retired four-star General Jack Keane joins me now. General, we don't seem to be getting any closer to a deal, and the Iranians are clearly successfully playing for time. What should be our next move?
I mean, and even that right there is a truthful statement, right? They seem to be, adequately playing for time here, which is what we knew they were trying to do. We saw the reporting come out that they very well recognized midterm elections. They very well recognized the limitations that, or the slight limitations, let's just say, that Republicans have put on to Donald Trump because of the pressures they're under going into midterms. Like, there's only so much bombing, death, and destruction, and killing of children, innocent children in Iran that they could put up with, that they could deal with before it's just an absolute fucking blue wash. I was going to say a whitewash in midterms, but it's going to be a blue wash, and to that extent. But for what he's saying, they're adequately playing for time. Are they getting punished for it? Absolutely, right? Are they facing economic devastation, economic damages from the naval blockade? Yes. Have they found small other ways to try to make up the difference in their lack of ability to trade the way that they were before this war started? But it's not enough to continuously sustain them. So absolutely, they're feeling the pain, but they still feel like, and they're probably more willing to withstand a lot more economic damage and to put their citizens under a lot more economic pressure, right? Or damage or devastation, or the damage to their infrastructure, whatever it may be, then the United States can last, right? So that's what they're hoping for, and that's kind of the argument going on, like we were talking about earlier, behind the scenes in Iran. Do we continue to bomb and show them and try to weaken them and show the world that we do continue to mean business and that this isn't ending anytime soon? Or do we recognize that ultimately the world already views this as an Iranian victory, right? And try to, kind of cut our losses as far as economic damages are concerned, and then kind of, go towards, whatever memorandum of understanding, talking points, and data sets that they want to try to agree to. But let's see what else he's got to say here.
Well, I think where we truly are is the diplomatic phase of this it just really hasn't met our objectives. And we went to the ceasefire, if you recall, on April the 7th, and that really began negotiations, and it started over the Straits of Hormuz because the Iranians indicated to us that they were willing to make a deal over the Straits, and we actually signed one, as you know, a couple of months later on June the 17th.
Well, wouldn't that be a problem? Wouldn't it be a problem going to war with a country and a government that you say you can't trust, and then all of a sudden being shocked when they come to some sort of agreement or they say they're going to do something, and then you inevitably can't trust them? Like, isn't that the problem with starting a war like this to begin with? because you were already engaged in negotiations in the first term when you took out their leader. You're engaged in negotiations here in the second term when you took out their leader. So they don't trust the United States for good fucking reason. Why would you, right? If you're sending a delegation to go speak with people, regardless of how well or poorly those talks are going, like they're engaged, they're there, they have people, they have dignitaries, or they have representatives there. And then in the background, the United States, in conjunction with Israel, decides to sneak attack and take out their leader, and then they do it again as the same thing is going on. So they don't trust us, and then we don't trust them, and then we're hoping to again have some, like, what are the talks? That's what I mean. Like, you don't believe me, I don't believe you, but let's agree to talks and some deals, and you sign it and I sign it, but none of us believe anything that's been fucking talked about. You know what I mean? Like, it's so fucking ass backwards in this whole situation to continue to prove that you can't trust the other side, but hope that agreements come to so that you can trust the other side. It's like it's just this like roundabout circle jerk that continues to happen with no end in sight, you know?
And several days after that, the Iranians blew that deal up, literally, by attacking. So where we find ourselves is we're no closer to a deal than we were at the very beginning back in the first week in April.
That's a fucking big statement, right? And I think that's something that we should kind of, get out into the political zeitgeist and promote and highlight. If you got if you're the DNC out there, for him to be like, listen, we're no closer to anything, any objectives, any deal, any talks, any outcome right now than we were in April, right? is again a huge statement, considering we've lost 18 of our service members, considering we've seen the injuries of several hundred, if not in the thousands, depending on how many names they've withheld and kind of how they categorize some of the injuries, how they've been playing those games, the Pentagon with who was injured, where they were injured, and trying to kind of manipulate the reasons, or the kind of what the stated reason for their injury was, or that wasn't during the war, that was outside the theater of they've been playing those little tricks and games to try to bring down the number of dead and wounded, so obviously to not face the most ramifications, the backlash.
And what the president and his team has decided to do is to put as much economic pressure on the Iranians as possible on April.
Philly, that's a good point. That's a good point too. Philly says, fucking, we don't trust us, Forget Iran not trusting us. We don't trust us. The United States citizens don't trust the United States government. So, all right, touche, Philly. Touche. Good point. Good point. I stand corrected. Good point.
April the 17th, literally a week after the ceasefire, we established a naval blockade. And by anybody looking at it, it's not disputable. It's been very successful. And it's shut down everything going in and out.
And yeah, sorry to keep stopping, but this is what you're seeing more and more now, DPD. This is what you're seeing more and more around the world. DPD says, my husband and I went to the grocery store this morning, and there was a couple ahead of us with 3 young children. The tally came up to over $800. Then he whips out a credit card. We thought, oh my God. I mean, again, the exorbitant costs right now, the ridiculous, prices that are put on some of these goods, and again, the cost of living that we're seeing is shocking. It is absolutely fucking shocking, and something that has a huge impact on a lot of families and a lot of lives, both inside the United States and outside the United States. So to see the the way in which it's been made exponentially more worse by Donald Trump, his lies, his inability to govern, his willingness to coddle up to the dictators, but to again shun our allies, his lack of knowledge on trade war, the whole tariff situation. All of it is again, it's directly leading to those situations that DPD was just describing, and I'm sure that multiple people, many people in the chat have kind of stories of examples of people that friends, family, coworkers that are in very dire situations right now because of cost of living. So just another minute or so of this. Like I said, he gets into talking about, and I just want to catch the line basically, where he has to and is forced to admit that even this economic trade war that the United States is now kind of thrust upon Iran and its trade allies, is not enough, isn't going to be enough.
Iranian ports, where it takes away a significant part of their revenue, and obviously that's having an adverse impact. And Secretary Bessent is going full throttle here to put as much economic challenge on the Iranians as possible, going way beyond the sanctions that we've done in the past. So I think where the president is that they're going to see how this economic pressure does work out, and will that motivate the Iranians to make the kind of deal the president and his team want. My own view, I'm not going to dodge the reality of it, is I don't think that's going to work by itself. I mean, here's what I think the Iranians really are, Stuart. They're going to try to ride this out as best they possibly can. They don't know the answer themselves if they can, but they certainly, after 4 months, I think they believe they can. And they're going to keep riding it out because they believe the pressure on the president in terms of midterms and also the oil and gas prices spiking will keep him from conducting military operations. And I think what they'll probably do is get more aggressive to try to indicate to the American people that the management of the war is not going well.
So now he's back to the Iranians are going to get more aggressive. You see how he kind of flip-flops between who he, depending on who he's talking to, kind of the situation going on at that time between Iran and the United States. Like, he's gone back and forth several times. But in this, even he is forced to admit that he doesn't think, even with, how well he thinks Scott Bessent has done and all the greatness that this administration has come, has shown and produced, even though there's been absolutely none of it, he doesn't believe that this is going to be enough by itself to get us out of this war, right? And again, we continue to talk about the Iranians' position and willingness to prolong this war, regardless of the economic devastation that they're under, right? They feel that it is worth it to kind of have that economic impact if they can continue the control over the Strait of Hormuz. Like, that is the nuclear weapon that Donald Trump has given them. So they are trying to, at all costs, hang on to that newly found power that Donald Trump afforded them. And if they, their people have to suffer for, 6, 7 months, a year, whatever it may be, then so be it, is what they're saying. And they still have the military stockpiles, the military capabilities to at least continue to fight that asymmetric war, right? They don't have the one-to-one capabilities of the United States Navy, of course. They don't have the one-to-one capabilities of the United States military, of course. But they don't need it. They just need a mine. They just need a missile. They just need a drone, and to be able to continue to hit these ships going through the strait. And it's going to have that adverse economic impact that they're in the pressure put upon the world economy that they're hoping for. Right? Combine that with the midterm elections, the political pressure, whatever small amount of political pressure lies there coming from the Republicans towards this administration, towards Donald Trump, because of, they're looking at their political careers, right? These lower politicians and the senators and the House and the rest of these representatives, like, they're looking at their political career and it's being run by Donald Trump and it's being run right into the fucking ground. So, like, they know that it's their asses on the line come midterm elections. Donald Trump doesn't have to worry about it. He doesn't give a fuck, and he's saying as much. He doesn't care. He doesn't care how much you're suffering right now. He doesn't care how much your families are suffering right now. He doesn't care how much your friends or coworkers are suffering right now. He can we have all the time in the world, says Donald Trump. But you and I don't, okay? You and I don't. I don't make I don't take in the paycheck like Donald Trump does by robbing and stealing in crypto to be able to withstand all of the dramatic rises in costs that we've seen for every fucking product that you need on a daily life. Okay. We struggle as a small channel here with less than 25,000 subscribers, as much as I love and respect and appreciate the community that we've built here. But again, we're not hopping around, in expensive vacations and, driving around in fucking Ferraris here because of the extent of which, the channel has been successful by any stretch of the imagination. So we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, just like everybody else. We're feeling the economic pinch, the economic crunch, just like fucking everybody else. But these assholes don't have to worry about it. They don't care about it, okay? Because they've set themselves up. They've set their families up, their businesses, their companies, and everybody in their inner circle up, with their corruption, with the fraudulent acts, with the crypto dealings and everything else to be just fine, to be absolutely just fine. So that was, again, Fox News. Even on with Stuart Varney there, Fox Business, I should say, with Stuart Varney, forced to admit, and you can see this. You can see that this is what's going on and the lies that are being told. Let me bring this up because this is This is some of the things that you're hearing coming from the White House, this administration, Fox News, and it's just not what we're seeing in reality. So this is Breaking 911 reported on Twitter, as other Twitter accounts had reported, but it says reports indicate crossings through the Strait of Hormuz are up 400% over the past 2 weeks as the U.S. Navy oversees oil tankers carrying millions of barrels of crude through a safer route south of the strait amid the ongoing naval blockade and fresh sanctions against Iran expected next week. So we'll listen to this short little, actually, no, we don't have to because that's Trey Yingst on Fox News, just kind of repeating the same bullshit here. But he even repeats and plays, as you can see here, Galibaf's statement talking about, the risk to security and how it's the responsibility and it's because of the United States and stuff. He even plays another, I believe, an IRGC leader and commander talking about how they're going to strike back if the United States and any of the, anybody else on the planet decides to, enact any trade wars or to cut off trade or to attempt to cut off trade, like they're going to become enemies automatically. But then you got shit like this, right? That just totally discounts the 400% increase or the 15 or 16 million barrels of oil that the Trump administration claims is getting through the strait. Says this is false. This is the Hormuz letter. This was put out yesterday. Axios claims 40 oil tankers crossed the Strait of Hormuz through the southern Omani corridor last on Friday night, carrying around 16 million barrels of oil out of the strait. However, the KPLER vessel tracking data, and I don't know if that's Kepler, if I'm supposed to be saying Kepler or whatnot, but it says, which uses satellite imagery rather than just the AIS, right? So rather than just the transponders. So doesn't matter if they're not, the beacon isn't showing. These VLCCs, the very large crude carriers, which they are, can be seen through this satellite imagery, but that's not what's showing up. It shows completely 0 west to east tanker crossings on Friday and 0 barrels of oil exiting through the strait. Now, that's a lot different than 16 million, right? That's almost like let me do my calculations here. That's almost like a 16 million barrel difference. You know what I mean? Like it's just, and he says Barack Ravid's Axios once again not only exaggerates, but just completely makes the numbers up whole cloth. And they actually give a breakdown here. Strait of Hormuz tanker transits west to east liquids, gives you the date here on the left-hand side, the type of carrier, like the type of vessel, the VLCC, the Suez Max, Africa Max, the Panamax, the tankers in general here. And you can see the numbers total. August 21st, 0, right? Have there been some? We've talked about single digits, right? Here's your single digits. 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, right? So I guess you could add in here with 7. We've talked about and heard somewhere like the number being thrown at like 12 or 14 sometimes as far as that's concerned. So not to say that it hasn't ramped up, but the way that they're trying to exaggerate and again, just in some instances, just completely make up whole cloth. The amount of transit that's happening through the Strait of Hormuz is clearly called out by the experts, the people that are clearly watching this, and it doesn't show here, right? It's not showing, you would think, if some 16 million barrels, and I think there was some 20 million barrels of oil, if I'm not mistaken, were kind of going through the strait pre-war. So if we're kind of almost back to pre-war levels, don't you think that the oil markets that have been listening to Donald Trump this whole entire time and the bullshit statements about a deal being right around the corner and them drastically lowering the price only to just raise the price back up after the bombs start falling again, like don't you think that they would react in favor of what these the lies that Trump is saying? Well, that's not what we've seen. We've seen a pretty consistent increase, probably based upon the fact that ships continue to be struck in the Strait of Hormuz, even though you may not be hearing it through mainstream medias. You may not be hearing it through mainstream outlets, especially right-wing, Donald Trump affiliated propaganda outlets on the right wing. So, but we bring you here. We bring you the facts here at Blunt Politics. So, please make sure to hit that like button if you find some value, right? Find some information here, some education. That would be fantastic of you to do. But you can see here, WTI, 87.06, another rise overnight. Brent crude, 94.39, another rise. This was about 92, I think, last time we took a look. And I think WTI was at about 84-ish, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly, this is not what we've seen happen. This is not what we've seen as far as the dramatic, downturn as far as the price per barrel of oil. If in fact, again, everything that the United States was claiming, Donald Trump was claiming, was actually the truth, was actually happening in reality. So you can hear multiple outlets, multiple people talking about these are just outright lies. Okay, these are lies made up to try to, again, manipulate the market, to try to manipulate the situation, and it's just not what we're seeing take place. So, and then you can look here as far as the national average for a gallon of gas here in the United States to 4.09. Again, still well above $4 a gallon. As Donald Trump tries to lie his way through his speeches, once again talking about inflation being down, lies, talking about the cost of living being down, lies, talking about prices of gas being down, lies. Basically everything that he said there and continues to say is an absolute lie. So, everybody's still feeling the pinch. 481 Alaska, 561 average in California, 476 in Oregon, Washington's 525, right? So just not the data sets that you'd see if the United States was actually telling the truth. If they were actually based in reality as far as what they were saying and what was happening with the Strait of Hormuz. But let's see here. There was this other one that I had that I wanted to bring up as well, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, that might have been it. So what do you say we jump into a little bit about the situation going on with the trade war, going on with Mark Carney, going on with Canada? Obviously, there's been some developments in that, let's just say. But I want to start off by showing you guys this, because this was, I think, less than 24 hours ago, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a day or two ago. But this is Trump basically saying that we should be able to have a deal with Canada. We are only starting to make deal with Mexico, a much better deal for the United States. I only make good deals, Donald Trump says. And then you cut to ASIN's reporting here, and it says Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney just announced that he has decided to suspend trade negotiations with the United States, right? So you can see this jackass just has absolutely no clue, continues to shoot himself in the foot, and continue to start these trade wars, whether it, wars in general, whether it be military or trade wars with our own allies. Okay. I believe it's now a 50% tariff that's going to go into affecting, a lot of states in my region, especially in the northern part of the United States that have, lots of trade, that have lots to do with Canadians, whether it's tourism, whether it's, trade in milk or dairy or whatever it may be. A lot of ways in which that this is going to now negatively impact people here in the United States. But again, that's what Donald Trump does best, is negatively impact people here in the United States. But I wanted to jump into is this, the Jonathan Pie, as he gives a
U.S. President.
Hold on, settle down. Wait.
Donald Trump.
Settle. Sit. Okay, good. But yeah, this is titled "Blame Canada," and Jonathan Pie, and I'm blanking. My apologies on the actor's name that kind of does this Jonathan Pie character. Somebody let me know in the chat. I used to know it. I'm blanking on it at this moment in time, but I want to give credit where credit is due. But yeah, this is Jonathan Pie, the account on YouTube, and this is Blame Canada. So I'm curious if he's got any insights or updates, or if he's going to fill us in a little bit more about what's going on with this economic trade war due to tariffs, Donald Trump's stupidity, obviously Mark Carney now playing hardball, Canada fighting back, and basically calling it what it is, a trade war. The United States is in a trade war with Canada, much like we are with a lot of our other allies, whether it be trade war, just a war of rhetoric, a war of pressure. Donald Trump has been trying to, again, utilize in his second term here. Tom Walker, thank you so much, Craig. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, everybody else, too. Thank you, Ian, and anybody else that got it, in the chat there. Thank you, guys. Yeah. So, yeah, Tom Walker, and again, does this fantastic, rendition, we'll just say, this fantastic Jonathan Pie character. So what do you say we jump into a little bit of this and see what trouble we can get into, see what insights Jonathan Pie has here on YouTube. And again, this is Blame Canada, talking about Donald Trump, talking about Mark Carney and the current trade war, the current trade situation between the two countries. So let's see here.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said Canada wants the benefits of being a state without being one after trade talks between the two countries collapsed late on Friday. He's got bored, hasn't he? Because he successfully won the war in Iran this week by simply naming the Strait of Hormuz American territory. Job done. Don't know why he didn't do that on day one. could have saved himself a whole lot of bother. But victory is Trump's. Hooray! The reality is, of course, the Americans are...
And again, I know I probably shouldn't have to say this and probably don't need to say this, but in case anybody's new to the show, in case anybody hasn't watched or seen when we've played a Jonathan Pye segment on this, it's heavily sarcastic, okay, in case you haven't picked up on the sarcasm. You should have, because it smacks you in the face like a fucking brick. You know what I mean? But this is, again, his kind of mocking of a journalist or a reporter. That's why he kind of does his bit to camera to begin with. He kind of ends his bit to camera, and then he kind of tends to give you his real thoughts. I think is kind of the bit behind this. What he says in front of the camera is one thing, and then once the camera's off, he goes into his tirade here of lashing out against Donald Trump, making fun of Donald Trump, basically shitting on everything that is the stupidity surrounding this administration right now. So just in case anybody's not familiar with this whole gig, this whole shtick here.
Out of ammo and their sailors are trying to jump overboard. But no, he's definitely won the war in Iran, so now he's finished with the Middle East. Who's next? Canada, of course. Again, those bastard Canadians. Just a little trade war this time. He'll be talking about invading Greenland again soon. He wants to not just be imperial president of the USA, but imperial overlord of the Western world. Why does he keep doing this? Why does he treat his allies and trading partners like they're the enemy, causing chaos and uncertainty across the globe? Because, of course, Trumpism is built on chaos. He loves chaos. Why? Because he makes money out of chaos. The most openly corrupt president in American history makes money out of the chaos he creates. It's never about what's right. It's always about what makes Trump money. Donald Trump has shattered the illusion of American morality. The $2.1 billion in perfectly timed directional oil bets placed minutes before presidential announcements.
I love seeing people from outside of the country. I love seeing that, like, people are recognizing what we recognize here in the United States. Clearly, this is the most corrupt administration that has ever fucking lived, that has ever existed here in the United States of America, and it hasn't gone past people, right? This isn't something that people don't notice, don't recognize, the instability, the ridiculousness of the administration. So, it's sometimes good to hear that, the sentiment that you guys have here in the chat, the things that you guys see in reality, the situations that you care about, other people that are, it's good to hear people in the chat and like-minded people, but there's also, outside of the United States, people that recognize that as well. So I think that's kind of a little bit of the benefit of some of these segments.
Has made a shitload of money out of this war, and I'm betting that person is Donald Trump. What about Trump charging Wall Street traders $100,000 a month for faster access to the president's posts on his Truth Social platform, allowing them to profit directly from state-sanctioned insider trading? How that would work, of course, is 3 or 4 hours before he does something, he just does a post to all his Wall Street insider traders saying something like, in about 4 hours, I am going to fuck with Mark Carney, so go make some money. What about Trump admitting...
Again, that's the $100,000 a month that Donald Trump was trying to charge for his Truth Social post, early access for his Truth Social posts, so that people could, manipulate the market, take money out of companies, put money into companies, whatever it may have been that would have benefited them to have that knowledge ahead of time. And again, the lawsuits that he's facing around that as well.
His sons benefit from insider trading and then managing to get himself and his sons immunity from the tax authorities. Or him trying to get US taxpayers to pay for a $1.8 billion slush fund for January the 6th insurrectionists. An administration who is happy to pardon violent January the 6th insurrectionists, but dare to protest ICE agents. The White House will happily condone you getting shot in the face. A convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist who took a bulldozer to the White House and is building a bunker under it in which he can lock himself when he loses the next election. The man who makes up wars that didn't happen so he can say he solved them. Who recently invented a new way of doing percentages, surrounding himself with people too afraid to point out to him that if egg prices drop by 600%, it means the chicken is paying you to steal its eggs. A man...
If the price of eggs drops 600%, the chicken is paying you to steal his eggs.
man who gives white South Africans asylum in America because of a white genocide that isn't happening, who believes Diet Coke cures cancer, the man who makes monuments in his own name, who names airports and art centres after himself, whose political movement is happy to promote the narrative that the UK has fallen to religious extremists, which amounts to a coordinated propaganda effort against Britain, an attack on our sovereignty by supposedly our closest ally. Under Trump, America, our closest ally, is on the brink of becoming the enemy, lecturing us about how Europe has gone to shit whilst presiding over a country with 500,000 people sleeping rough and a healthcare system that will either kill you or bankrupt you or both. And every time he behaves like this, there is despair in European capitals and delight in Moscow, which tells you all you need to know. Well, a familiar story throughout Trump's second term. Tariffs have been used.
And then at the end of it, he goes back into that kind of like regularly scheduled programming, kind of like his regular bit, as it were, as a journalist, or, you know, kind of the report that he was given at the beginning. But very well done, as usual, by Jonathan Pye here. Tom Walker is the gentleman that does this. Does this skit, does this little bit, does this stick here, and it's typically very, very well done. And again, no notes on that one, spot on. I thought it was going to be a little bit more. I wanted to catch it with you guys. I thought it was going to be a little bit more about the specifics surrounding the Mark Carney situation with Canada. But again, the general points being made in the fact that Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Xi Jinping a lot of the times are the winners of these situations of the the damaging policies that Donald Trump puts into place, should tell you everything that you need to know about who he wants to ultimately win, whose side he's ultimately on in this fight as well. So good shout out to Jonathan Pye there for another banger as far as that's concerned. What do you say we get into a little bit of calling out this bastard, okay? Because I'm sick and tired of this guy, right up with the rest of these morons. Like, he's on the tops of the list. I was gonna try to put like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on it as far as top people I'm pissed off with or sick of. But again, the list is too long. Would be here all night as far as that's concerned. But all right, here's Mark Levin. Mark Levin is, one of Israel's, most vocal and most ardent supporters. He thinks that every young person in this country should be more than happy, more than ready, and more than willing to sacrifice his or her life for the cause of Benjamin Netanyahu, for the cause of this genocidal, murderous government that they have going on over there, in which we continue to send money and weapons for them to, again, prolong the genocide, prolong the murder, and prolong their push into different states, pushed into different countries to try to occupy their territory, West Bank, Gaza, Lebanon, you name it at this point. Now we're talking about, strikes into Syria, possible fights against Turkey. Turkey coming up with some pretty, dramatic statements as it pertains to Israel in retaliation against them. So, a lot of things are kicking off. Obviously, Turkey being a NATO country adds a lot of questions surrounding that. But I wanted to call out a little bit of this because Mark Levin is now, I think, taking at least a second out of his job as the top Israeli propagandist here on Fox News to try to tell people here in the United States that it's the blue states. It's the blue states that are the problem. And I think that is quite literally the title of this one. Yes, he says, blue states are sabotaging you. And I think the more broader headline is blue states are the problem. Again, the blue states that contribute to the federal economy, right? They contribute more than they take out. The red states, they take out, they suck out. They need more federal assistance. They need more help than they can provide and put back into the economy. So states like, California, Massachusetts, other blue states are responsible for directly keeping those fucking states alive, okay? The red states hang on the coattails of the blue states in this country, and that's the fucking way it is, and it's probably the way that it's always been to some degree, kind of in modern society as far as, the states in which that produce and the states in which that don't, right? So, okay, let's call out a little bit here from this asshole. Again, we don't have to go through too much of this, so don't worry about being exposed to too much of Mark Levin. We'll go through we'll say a minute or 2 minutes. I think that should give us enough enough space to call him out and show everybody kind of what an idiot this guy is. All right, let's get into it. Appreciate you guys again. My name is Boston Brian. This is the Blunt Politics Podcast. Several different ways in which you can contribute to this show. The Venmo is up in the corner. YouTube memberships just underneath me. Patreon.com/Boston Brian, or just some super chat, super stickers in the chat. Great ways to help this show. Liking, sharing, and liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell as well.
Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday. Welcome to the program. You know, I want to do something a little differently this evening. I want to talk about the state of the nation, because we hear a lot of negativity. The President of the United States and this administration does not get the credit it deserves. In fact,
just doesn't get the credit, guys.
This evening, I looked at everything. They try to humiliate and embarrass the administration. They're trying to look for
No. The administration does a great job of that themselves. I don't think it requires any work or any like blood, sweat, or tears on our side to make this administration and people that support them look like assholes and embarrass themselves. They do a very, very good job of doing that themselves, right? I mean, just with their history, just with their past, the things that they've done, the people that they're affiliated with. I mean, the stupid, ridiculous policies they've put in place, the lies that they've told, right? All of these things, like the ways they tried to stop free and fair elections in this country. Like, I think they do a good job of embarrassing themselves without us having to do it. We're happy to be there to laugh at them and to highlight all of this shit, which is, basically what my job is. But as far as like trying to concoct things to make them look stupid, we don't have to do that. They're stupid. That's it.
Negative issues. They're trying to look for.
He goes on here to talk about affordability, just to kind of set the stage here. We're going to set the table a little bit. He's going to try to tell you that like this affordability question, and anybody crying poor mouth about affordability is either just lying, isn't based in reality, or is being fed, is willingly obfuscating and trying to make it seem like things are worse to try to make Donald Trump look bad, which is obviously not the case.
But they're not reporting the news. I want to talk about something that matters to you. How are we doing in this country?
Shitty.
For
terrible.
Matters that affect you directly. We hear about affordability.
Yeah, you do. You hear about affordability. You talk about, housing. We talk about healthcare. You talk about, public transportation, roads, bridges, and railways. Veterans assistance, all of those things, like all of those shit. We're doing shitty. We're doing terribly as far as all of those things that I just named are concerned. But apparently, Mark Levin doesn't see that or wants you to forget about that, wants you to ignore all of those huge societal issues that we now face. Doge coming in, releasing people's information, the elimination of the funding for cancer research for children. Again, the elimination of a lot of people from their health insurance, their health supplier, and how much that's going to affect and help, the death of a lot of people, the degradation in the care that women now get down in this country, but more so in the southern states. In other areas of this country as well. But, when women are dying on the steps of fucking hospitals because they won't get care because the doctors in that hospital refuse to give them care because they could likely face prison time, like I'd say that's a clear indication that things are fucking going wrong in this country when we have, again, the billionaire pedophile Epstein class out there making billions and billions and billions of dollars, robbing this country while making billions and billions of dollars, stepping on the backs and the throats of the American working class people that bust their fucking ass day after day after day to make these companies successful, to make them profitable, to the point where the CEOs are making $35 million or more, just for bonuses, right? Forget about average salary, annual salary. Forget that. No, they're making fucking $100 million bonuses. Okay, one time, boom, $100 million bonus, but even more, right? I'm sure that's on the conservative end, depending on what conglomerate they work for. But, let's go out and let's see what other $200 million yacht we could buy. Let's see what other $100 million property we could buy in some other fucking continent. Meanwhile, you don't know how you're putting food on the table when you get home tonight, okay? You don't know when you leave work if you're going to be able to make it home with the gas that you have in the tank. Hopefully you can, because you got no fucking money in the bank account to fill it back up if you don't, right? Or how the fuck are you going to be stressing all week? How the fuck are you going to pay for, Susie's field trip that she needs $150 in order to participate in, or the soccer field trip, or the hockey trip, that your son plays in, in the $2,000 that it takes to send them to Lake Placid or to send them to a tournament somewhere in the country. Like those are the things that you guys worry about. But apparently Mark Levin and his rich fucking pricks, the billionaire Epstein pedophile class, clearly don't have to worry about that or even care at all about people that do, even though the people that make them the billions are the ones suffering. And if those suffering people don't show up to work, if they boycott work, if they start marching in the streets, then fucking how quickly the profits from these corporations will go down the shitter, and these people will inevitably find themselves in a shitload of debt, selling off companies, selling off properties, selling off helicopters and planes, and that's not something they want to have to do. But all right, let's go on here with this fucking pompous prick.
Drop it? Well, I don't want to drop it. I want to talk about it.
Let's talk about affordability,
Under
Mark.
this president,
Let's do it.
Under this president, a year and a half in office in his second term, salary increases and take-home pay are rising faster than consumer price inflation, which is way down. The annual inflation rate stabilized and cooled slightly to 3.4%.
Now, no, hold on, because you're breezing by that, and there are some data sets. I think there are some data sets that we could point out here. Let me see if I can throw this on your screen real quick, because 3.4% inflation, is that higher or lower than Joe Biden left to Donald Trump? Right? Just a little quiz here, a little pop quiz for the chat. Is 3.4% higher or lower than when Joe Biden left office? Well, if anybody out there said it was higher, you'd be correct. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner, winner. Chicken dinner. Thank you for playing, folks. You are correct. It is higher than when Donald Trump took over from Joe Biden, when Joe Biden left office. Let's just go through a couple economic data sets, and then we'll jump back into Mark Levin's bullshit here. That way we're a little bit more informed and educated on the lies that he's telling, okay? So we can see here in one column here is going to be Joe Biden's final month, and then we got the economy right now as of August 2026, okay? Then we got the economic metric on the very left that we're going to go by. So real GDP growth, okay? So we had 2.5% to 3% annualized. Right now in August, we have 1.5% for quarter two in 2026, okay? So real GDP growth was high. Headline inflation here, 3% year over year. It was when Joe Biden left office. Now 3.4%, down from 3.5, but even 3.5 for sure is higher than 3, and I'm pretty sure, I'm relatively sure that even 3.4 is higher than 3%. So again, another economic data set in which he's doing more poorly. Core inflation, and I think this is weird because it says if you exclude food and energy, which is strange, but that's, it was 3% at the end of Joe Biden's term, 2.5% in just July. So I don't know if you can really do adequate comparisons as far as those two data sets are concerned. But unemployment rate, 4% when Joe Biden left office, 4.1% in July of 2026. So better, 4 is better than 4.1, right? Even if we're talking about slightly. If Biden's economy was as bad as everybody says it was, or as bad as, Republicans and Trump claim it to be, then why the fuck are their numbers looking anywhere, in the same relationship, anywhere in the same category, right? Anywhere in the same neighborhood? You'd think they'd have much better numbers if the Biden economy is so drastically horrible, right? And then it says federal budget deficit here, $1.8 trillion at the end of Joe Biden's term, $1.9 trillion now in 2026. So again, adding to the federal budget deficit. Deficit remains large by historical standards, sitting at roughly 5.8% of total U.S. gross domestic product. So again, just a couple data sets that you could point to here as far as pointing out some of Mark Levin's stupidity, his lies. And I think I pulled this up too, because he said something about wage growth that I don't think was true. This says, while nominal wages grow at roughly 3.5% annually, matching general inflation near 3.4%, soaring prices for non-discretionary essentials like housing, healthcare, and insurance routinely outpace flat lower-tier wages, leaving many households feeling financially pressed despite incremental pay gains, right? So again, the words that he's using are made to kind of obfuscate a little bit. They're meant to kind of trick you, when in reality, if you add in some of the more real world characteristics, real world things that you have to deal with, like most households are still feeling vast amounts of economic pressure, and their dollar is going it's not going as far. Okay, it's not traveling or taking that family as far as it once was, as far as the the salary combined with either mom and dad, or just salary with mom or salary with dad, however the family is set up. they're not making it as far. They're not being able to pay as many of their bills or to save money, if they were lucky enough to be able to have money left over at the end of paying all their bills. But now even a lot of people finding that they're not able to adequately pay all of their bills each month, even though they may be making the same amount or even more than they were making, just a couple years ago. So, to when he goes back and he says that, wages are outpacing inflation, I believe he's not adding in a lot of the other surrounding data sets and surrounding things that go into the, the numbers that you would accurately come out with as far as looking at those situations. Oh, hold on. Let me throw his fat face back on there. My apologies.
3.5%. Now think about that. 3.4, 3.5.
Listen to what he says.
Those are rates that we haven't had since the first Trump term. And before that, since like never.
I'm sorry, 3.4% as far as inflation numbers we haven't seen since Trump's first administration. Is that what he just said? I'm sorry. I thought he just said that because I'm pretty sure that I just showed right here as far as headline inflation, right? You go right here, 3% year over year. It's now 3.4, so that's higher. That means Biden's numbers were better, and that was after Donald Trump's first term. So what the fuck is he talking about? So not only does he say we haven't seen numbers like this since since Trump's first term, but maybe ever in history. And we're pointing out that literally Joe Biden left the economy at that level, as far as at least the inflation, right? And just, taking, 1 point at a time from Mark Levin here, like calling that one out, letting you know that that's false, that's incorrect. He's lying about that. Like we'll do that kind of line by line if we can here.
That we haven't had since the first Trump term. And before that, since like never.
Yeah, since never. We've never had numbers like this, ladies and gentlemen. Never had numbers like this. Again, the 103,000 jobs, that had to be kind of retracted as far as, job growth in this country just a couple months ago. Was it just a couple weeks ago? My apologies at this point in time. The rise of inflation, again, the rise of a gallon of gasoline, the price per barrel of oil, heating costs, groceries, clothing, anything that you could possibly think of has gone up in price. But somehow he wants you to believe that we haven't ever done this well, right? It's this like economic renaissance and golden age that Donald Trump is promising you. Mark Levin really thinks that he can force you to believe, get you to believe that we're in those times right now. Even again, you guys have to live your daily lives. So you have to go out there and what's in your bank account compared to what you have to spend. So I don't know how he thinks these lies are really going to land as far as this is concerned, but he still attempts it.
While price acceleration is flattened and month over month, consumer prices rose by a modest 0.1%. In other words, they didn't rise. Inflation rose to a 40-year peak of 9.1% in June 2022 under President Biden.
There we go. This is what everybody's doing. This is their playbook, right? If anybody's talking about prices now in the economy right now, point back to Joe Biden, point back to COVID, point back to when we had a worldwide pandemic going on and people were fucking locked away in their homes. No shipping and trade was going on. Or we could talk about again the effects of the onset of the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia and how that impacted oil and gas prices as well. But, everybody point back to 2021 and 2022, who was on with Kristen Welker? Kristen Welker was just speaking to somebody. I think it was one of the sycophantic, ridiculous politicians on the Trump side. I can't remember who it was at this point in time, but he was doing the same thing, right? Hey, she asked a question about today's economy, the pressure that people are feeling now, and he went all the way back to, 2021, we had 9 point this and 9 point that, and she's like, well, we're under almost 2.5 years now of Donald Trump's second term. Can you guys shut the fuck up about the Biden administration? Like, you guys have had ample time now to fix, change, or alleviate any of the damages done, or that you say were done, I'll reiterate, by the Biden administration. So can we fucking, you guys have kicked that dead horse, right? You've beaten that dead horse enough already. I don't understand why you continue to think that this makes you guys look good, right? I don't understand why you continue to think that this takes the focus or the spotlight off of the pressures that we're facing now, because it doesn't. It just makes you look weak, just makes you look pathetic and unable to come up with an answer, unable to face the reality of the moment that we're now in.
averaging nearly 5% during his presidency. He
Tim
also
Scott,
spent
yes,
like a
Orb
wild.
Rumor. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. It was Tim Scott on with Kristen Welker, who again, just time and time again, no matter what the question was, decided to bring up Joe Biden's name, bring up again a time where they weren't going to refer to the the worldwide pandemic that we were facing, or the the reasons behind the dramatic shift in the economy that we had. So Orb Rumor, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Marxist with that massive Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation except caused inflation. That was trillions of dollars of needless spending during President Trump's.
Right, and it's crazy. It really is nuts how somehow they tried to go back to the bills that Biden put into act, or they'll love to point out the what do you call them, the stimulus checks, right? They'll always go back to the stimulus checks that Biden did, even though Donald Trump put out even more. Like I think it was 3.8 or 3.9 to 1 point. Hell, let me do this. Let me go this. So I want to get these numbers correct, because even if they bring up that data set, even if they bring up that point, Donald Trump was responsible for injecting more into the economy than Joe Biden was at that point for through those stimulus packages. Stimulus amounts, Trump versus Biden. I know Biden was 1.9 trillion, and I think Trump was like 3.8 or 3.9, if I'm not mistaken. Biden total. So again, when they bring this up, I laugh at this too. Yeah, right here. Let me throw this on the screen. Here we go. There we go. So it says here, under Donald Trump and Joe Biden, the federal government enacted major COVID-19 relief and economic stimulus packages. Trump signed the $2.2 trillion CARES Act in March 2020 and a subsequent $900 billion package in December 2020. Biden signed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan in March 2021. So again, adding up the, what is that? The 3.1, 3.2-ish, depending on what the decimal points in cents were, as far as that's concerned, to the 1.9, you're still talking about much more than Donald Trump threw back into the economy. If you're trying to, say that was the cause or a cause of the inflation and why the inflation rate went so high. Well, even to that degree, Donald Trump's responsible for more than Joe Biden was. Okay, so we had this conversation with, within a debate the other night with somebody on TikTok, and it didn't go the way that he thought it was going to go, right? So if you're going to try to point to the payouts, right, and the stimulus and the rescue packages as the reason that the United States was under so much economic pressure and saw the inflation rate, again, not taking into account any of the worldwide things that went into why the inflation rose to the levels that it did. Anyways, but not taking that into account, still won't recognize that Biden's responsible for less money, less dollar amount going back into as far as stimulus packages are concerned than Donald Trump. So they just, again, they can't get themselves out of the mud. Like, they continue to try to wiggle around in the quicksand that is like the propaganda surrounding Trump, and they continue to find themselves on the opposite side, right? On the losing side of this. So let's see. I'll go back here. This is Mark Levin. We'll just let him go for another minute, and we'll see what else we can get into here.
Second term, inflation cooled significantly to an average of roughly 2.6 to 2.7%.
Yes, again, dealing with the quickest recovery from COVID than out of any major country that, again, the Biden administration put into play. So Donald Trump, coming into his term, was feeding off the backs, was benefiting from the way in which the economy was going, the way in which it had already been started to be revamped, restarted, rebuilt, right? So that's why we saw the numbers, and even the the inability of Donald Trump to do well with that economy, and how he managed to fuck that up as well.
It's incredible if you really think about it. Let's take a look at something else that matters to you. Home prices. Home prices have declined on an annual basis in more than half the country, reversing years of rapid increases and improving affordability for...
Hold on. New economic data highlights the strength and resilience of President Trump's economy. Home prices have declined on an annual basis in more than half the country, reversing years of rapid increases and improving affordability for families and first-time buyers. Rent growth slowed to its lowest pace since President Trump's first term, with single-family rent hitting... Well, this isn't going to be something that Trump's happy about. And that's not something that Donald Trump's directly responsible for, if even in fact that is true. right? Let's just, with a grain of salt, give him this. Donald Trump continues to come out on an almost daily basis when he's questioned about housing, when he's questioned about prices of stuff, that he wants home prices to go up. He doesn't want prices of homes to go down. He wants the rich people and his rich friends that he's associated with to have their property prices continue to go up, right? So if this is if this is something, let me just we'll do this too. We might as well fact check everything. And I say housing prices year by year, U.S. See what we come up with. All right, average house price index, macro trends, Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Let's see, what would be a good... This is FHFA. Let me do this one, see if that comes up with anything. So what do we got? That's not what I want. No, I don't want to calculate my home price because I don't own one. Let's see here. Because it said in some areas of the country, and I'm wondering if that's due to, like, you know, natural disasters, right? I'm wondering if that's due to, like, floods and, like, after Katrina, you know, for example, how, you know, there was so much property damage and so many houses that were lost, then inevitably the property values drop considerably in those areas. So I'm curious what kind of data sets and lies that he's using to go about. But let's see here. This is average sales price of houses sold for the United States, okay? So we'll see here, 1965, quarter four, 1964, the average sale price for a house in the United States was $20,900. Imagine that. Imagine what you could do with your life right now if you could buy a home, right? If you could finance a home for 20 grand. Like, how awesome would that fucking be? Jesus Christ. All right, so we can see here, obviously, the continuous trend up here, trending upwards, some ups, some downs. But where are we right now? So the closest that we could get to right now is quarter two, 2026, $502,000, $502,700 is the average sale for a price of a house here in the United States. That's down from quarter four, 2025 to 541. So 541 to 502. So clearly still well out of reach for a vast majority of young Americans and young people hopeful to, at one point, be able to buy or own their own property, especially the ones that they have to live in. But again, let's see here. It was quarter one, 2025, 514, was at 508 in quarter three, right? So it was 508 quarter three of 2025, and then it went up substantially to 541, and now it's back down to 502. So if you're looking comparative to quarter three of 2025, like it's very less substantial of a drop than if you look at the spike there from quarter four of 2025. So again, trying to manipulate the data to make it seem like it is drastically more affordable or drastically better by any stretch of the imagination. And then obviously not touching on, you know, what part of the country we're talking about, you know, where, you know, kind of what data sets went into getting this information to begin with. Is difficult to pinpoint, but you can see that, you know, Mark Levin trying to utilize his, 19 minutes and 22 seconds to the best of his ability to put out about as much lies and bullshit as he could possibly try to put out there in that amount of time. But let's see. I think there was one other thing that I wanted to call out, if I'm not mistaken. What was this one?
Reducing the availability. So if you wonder why you have really high costs in some of these dark blue states, you can thank your governor and you can thank your state legislatures. Reconsideration of waste.
Don't blame it on the fact. And he goes in to talk about blue states and fuck him for everything that he says. Anyway, it's not that important. But I wanted to make sure to call out at least a certain percentage of his little segment that he had here. But he's talking about, again, taxes. He's talking about the cost of living, while also not putting that into relation and how the blue states, again, take care of and keep the red states in this country going. You know what I mean? So if it wasn't for the exorbitant, amount of federal dollars put back into the federal economy by the blue states, then these red states would have a much more difficult time functioning, and in a lot of cases probably wouldn't be able to be its own thing, right? Probably wouldn't be able to sustain in a lot of cases, and whether or not you're talking about education, hospitals, right, healthcare in general, all of the roads, bridges, railways. I mean, anything, again, that the state or the federal government is responsible responsible for, the blue states in this country go to benefit those red states to whatever degree that they try to, again, utilize or not be corrupt with the money that they inevitably see from the federal government as far as that's concerned as well. But all right, there was one more. I think I missed one. Now, let's go back to this. Was this Mark Carney? Let me see. Was this one more? Just want to make sure that I'm not glossing by anything here, because I think there was a couple other moments from this as well. Let's see here. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I talked about Mark Carney, but I didn't actually play. Let me play this, and then we'll jump into this next segment before I forget. My apologies on that one, but I didn't want to. I meant to play these for you. I meant to play Mark Carney's statements. I think there's just a couple clips that I wanted to play here, less than a minute each, so nothing too crazy. But this is basically where he states, "Hey, that we're being attacked. We're being attacked by the United States. Why do you feel like you're in an economic trade war with the United States? Because we're being attacked. Because Donald Trump's so erratic. Because he threatens us with these ridiculous things at the last moment, and then talks about basically ruining our entire country, or on the other side, making our entire country a United States. In making us part of the United States, which is obviously ridiculous and asinine to even to contemplate. But yeah, this is one of the comments that a lot of people are speaking about as far as Mark Carney is concerned. So, and then we'll get back into the coverage. My apologies.
Last follow-up, Diakis.
Probably double barrel it because it's the last one. But first, do you plan on? I know
I can't now. You
squeezing water out of a rock.
Tom tried that. It's
Do you plan on reviving certain measures eliminated as what previous concessions, the digital service services tax, the U.S. streaming payments for CanCon, for example, those measures? And why does it feel like today Mark Carney is going to war, trade war? The tone.
Because we're attacked. Like you're at war when you get attacked. We got attacked. U.S. put 50%. We waited until the United States decided to actually implement these so-called 338 tariffs. That's fine. We've got the reserves. We got the resilience. We've got the plan. We've got the focus. We will respond. We're going to focus on what we can control. We're going to build.
So again, that's in response to the 50% tariffs. And like I said, a lot of, northern states here, especially in the New England area, have rely heavily upon, and to varying degrees, obviously, the tourism, or again, just the business that comes from people going to Canada, from Canada, Canadians coming into the United States, utilizing the ski resorts up in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, coming down for hiking, coming down for camping, whatever it may be, Canada is known for having some pretty good access to some camping as well. But people that live closer to the border, or within a reasonable drive, like and enjoy going into Maine, enjoy going into the United States to say that they went for a camping trip, or they went for a ski trip, or they went for some sort of reason. And, that helps a lot of the businesses up there in Maine, to flourish. They rely upon those, whether it's in the seasonal aspects, or whether it's in the summer for camping, or whether it's in the winter for skiing, snowmobiling, cross country skiing, snowshoeing, whatever it may be. Like it's a big way in which these businesses continue to be able to pay their bills and stay open on a yearly basis. A lot of them where they're open only seasonally, right, is that heavy influx of business that they get in these different areas. So again, depending on what category, depending on what business and industry you're in, like it's going to have varying degrees of effects on that. And clearly just the relationship between Canada and the United States, a lot less people in Canada probably looking to come to the United States for any reason. I'm sure they're looking at it and saying, no, we have resources that we can kind of utilize in Canada. Why the hell would we risk going into Donald Trump's United States and, them kind of holding us for ransom if we, have espoused something on social media that was anti-Donald Trump, or, went against one of his policies? Like, they're not giving him the opportunity to do that. And there was one more here, I think. The Americans were asking too much and offering too late. That ensured how Canada Prime Minister Mark Carney described the reason for the collapse of the trade deal. So I think he explains it a little bit more here. Let's see if we can go into this.
We believed earlier this week that we were moving towards a mutually beneficial agreement. In recent days, the United States proposed new terms that were uneconomic, unfair, and undermined the net benefits for Canada, and called into question the reliability of any deal.
So again, much like we've seen from Trump in a lot of different agreements and trade talks and even negotiations for wars, is at the very last moment adding in some ridiculous ask, ridiculous demand that's obviously going to be a non-starter, right? That's obviously going to put the line back in the sand, and everybody's going to go back to their corners where they were just talking 2 seconds ago. And that was on this post here from Nexta. If it'll come up at some point in time, you can do it. You can do it. What's going on? Oh, here we go. Yeah. So this is a Reuters article, and it says U.S. hits Canadian goods with 50% tariff after trade talks fail. Right. So again, that was the original post that they were speaking about here. But again, just another situation where you can see the blatant degradation that has been ongoing and continued, as it pertains to the United States and our trade partners, as it pertains to our allies, as it pertains to people that we've had relationships, countries that we've had relationships with for generations at this point, that are very vital to the survival of this country, whether it be economically, a huge portion of the way in which, industries in this country continue to flourish, continue to function. It's just, it's very in line. It's very in line with the way that this Trump administration has handled itself. But, it's embarrassing to see this on a daily basis, where we just can't even come up with even the most simple economic trade terms, right? With partners that we've had for generations, the people that live on our fucking doorstep. You think it would be easy to come to terms, right? You think it would be easy to be able to, deal with these countries that we've dealt with for so long, and to see Donald Trump come in here and just completely throw a fucking wrench in the works. It's going to be quite some time before we can rebuild these relationships, before these countries have any trust, or at least the levels of trust that they once had in the United States. And that's regardless of what administration comes next. Hopefully the next Democratic administration can come in and do some substantial work at repairing the damages done. Whether that be, here on our own continent or on other continents with trade partners and allies and anybody else that we have to deal with. Like, it's going to be quite some time before we regain the legitimacy on the world stage that we once saw. And again, this is speaking in terms of today. And we still have nearly 2 years of Donald Trump to go. So who knows at the end of Donald Trump's term, what those trade partners look like, what it looks like between, the relationships with us and our allies. I mean, it could get dramatically worse. It could get vastly worse. I mean, when we're talking about Greenland still creeping around in the background, the talks about, going into Cuba still floating around in the background. We still see the ongoing war with Iran. Donald Trump's willingness to expose you guys to economic suffering for a prolonged period of time without care, without even a thought of what it means to you or anybody else that's facing these problems right now. So it's just, another one of these things where you're not surprised to see it. It angers you. It should anger you. It should frustrate you. It should piss you off. But it definitely shouldn't be a surprise to, by any stretch of the imagination, that Donald Trump decided to again throw a wrench in the works as far as a trade agreement, which is now leading to economic pressure, economic damages, and a weakened state, a weakened relationship with our partner and ally in Canada. So, but when you see him saying shit like this, it's probably not hard to imagine that that's going on. So he now continues to say that he views the Strait of Hormuz as an American territory. Again, just kind of highlighting how delusional he is, how kind of out to lunch, living on another fucking universe and another planet in a galaxy far, far away he is, to not recognize the ongoing problems, the continued problems, and how much it'd have to put you guys, how much stress and economic damage you'd have to put this country under to hopefully wait out the Iranians, where that's much like what he's trying to say now. He's trying to do low-keying it. There's no rush. We can sit around as long as you guys want. It doesn't matter how much the price of a gallon of gas goes up, or how much the oil goes up, or how much, groceries go up, or your clothes go up, or anything else that you need on a daily basis. He's all set. He's sitting on his little fucking golden throne there in the White House, talking about how the Strait of Hormuz is going to be his little plaything. Okay, this is much like Hitler looking at his little models of Linz and looking at, models of what he wanted to turn Berlin into as far as Germania, right? He wanted to have the world's biggest museums filled with all Europe's artworks and greatest pieces stolen from everybody that was, pillaged and plundered by the Nazis. Like, same thing. I can picture Donald Trump going around these little models with his Trump arch and his fucking the golden horses and the ballroom and shit with like his Albert Speer. Like, who's Trump's Albert Speer? Like, that's a good question. Chat, who's like his main guy you'd think of when he does like these building projects? Wouldn't be Nutlick, right? Wouldn't be Nutlick? Who's the other guy? Who's the other guy that loves, the Bergam? Would it be Bergam? Is Bergam like his Albert Speer, the guy that he spends hours walking around these little models with? Well, Natalie Hopp, she's got a different job. She's got a different job, Corey, and she stays below the table. I'm talking about the people that would be standing up above the table looking at the models. Natalie would be below the table, I'd imagine. Yeah, Doug Bergam. Yeah, I think so. And again, there's probably other people that we could think of as far as like Hitler's architect and, Donald Trump's architect and who he uses for some of these projects. But that's what I could picture. And I'm sure you could too. Just a room filled with little tiny models of like, what Donald Trump wants Washington, D.C. to look like by the time he gets out of office. And it's like all these gaudy fucking gold statues everywhere and arches and this and that and monuments and shit that nobody asked for, right? Like, you could picture him going around, different model sets like that with Doug Bergam. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's going to be fantastic. Yes, we could do that. It's going to be fantastic. Sure. Don't worry about how much it costs. We can get that done. Like, same fucking thing.
We cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon, or you'll see some very bad things.
And this is Trump from, I believe it was in Myrtle Beach, giving this speech.
So we went down and we stopped them. They'll never have a nuclear weapon. They want to make a deal so badly. We don't even know if we want, because I view the Strait of Hormuz as an American territory right now. It's an American territory.
So he claims it's an American territory. He claims that Iran is desperate to make a deal, but also claims that he has no idea who the hell he's talking with, right? He has no idea who he's dealing with. So again, how could those two things be present at the same time? How could those two things be true at the same time? How could you be listening to them talk about how desperate they are to make a deal and all these deals that they want to make, by also saying that you don't know who's talking, you don't know who's who, you don't know who the leadership is? There he is talking about Venezuela, says these people are allowed to flow into our country, murderers. I think they emptied their jails, so he blames Venezuela for emptying their jails, which is, again, one of his ridiculous talking points he used to get back into his second term. But now says he loves Venezuela because he's making billions and billions of dollars off of Venezuela. Meanwhile, again, you guys see no benefit. You guys see absolutely nothing from that. Let me see. There was one of these things where he says he has no idea who he's talking to as far as Iran is concerned, and I found that to be pretty funny. So many of these different friggin'... This is where he gets heckled. He did get heckled here. Justice Department. I don't have to be here on a Friday night. I don't have to be here, he says. He made our country great again. There's one here where he says he's lowering prices as well. Look at all these fucking just most insane... Every one of these is just an insane portion of the speech. An insane statement, a lie. Right? Something along those lines. Trump on communism. Trump talking to Lindsey Graham's sister. She's focused on affordability. Beef is coming down rapidly. Lindsey Graham was about foreign nations. Whatever that means. Here he is again talking about Darlene Graham. Talking about Darlene Graham being anti-gun. Let's see here. Look at how many there are. Jesus Christ, of these clips. Reading the snake. Oh, here's where he says he solved inflation. This is one of them I wanted to touch on. Let you guys. He solved inflation, guys.
All of that, the horror that was allowed. You know, they gave us the worst inflation in 48 years in history, as far as I'm concerned.
False.
And all of these things, I've already solved that. Mostly solved it. It'll be soon solved when the fuel comes.
And by solved, he means that it's now 4 points above where he got it, where it was when he took over. So that's how he solves the inflation, right? I mean, does anybody in the audience, and to a degree, you're seeing the cult in the background, right? This lady apparently brought her whole family. Looks like a much younger crowd that they're trying to put into the background to make it seem like he still has that Like he still has that persuasion, like he still has that kind of hold over the younger base, which he absolutely doesn't. Not to say that there aren't the cult people out there, not to say that he doesn't have the followers. Again, these are two totally different conversations where we're having where the grip on the cult and again the cult even existing are two totally different things. But this is the cult that you're seeing here in Myrtle Beach. And again, listen to him to say that he lowered prices, solved inflation. Nobody decides to fact check that. Nobody decides to research that in the crowd to be like, well, that ain't true. I'm paying exorbitant prices. Let's see here. There was a couple other moments as well where he says he went down and that's where he talks about. Oh, Caroline, hold on. You can't talk about Caroline without playing her theme song. We're going to play Caroline's theme song. Hold on.
Caroline, she's the reason for the word bitch.
I love that one. Sorry, yeah, here's another one where he says that prices are down, inflation's down, everything's down, ladies and gentlemen. So apparently what you guys are seeing in your daily life, apparently what you guys are experiencing and the prices that you guys are paying must be fake. Apparently they're not real. You're lying. You're making it up. Don't believe him because he says it otherwise here in this speech.
So in just 19 months, we've turned this country completely around.
Yeah, we have turned this country completely around from a once broadly respected country to one that is absolutely laughed at right now on the world stage, one that has created more instability right now, one that has created an unstable Middle East that is ready to kick off in multiple different aspects, multiple different ways, whether you're talking about Israel, Lebanon, Israel and Turkey, Israel and Syria, whether you're talking about the Houthis and the Yemens, whether you're talking about the Houthis and the Bab el-Mandeb, whether you're talking about the Houthis and the Iranians in the Strait of Hormuz. Like all of these things still have the opportunity, the ability to kick back off at any second. We continue to talk about ships being struck in the Strait, Houthis striking against Yemen, Israel striking against Syria, Turkey threatening Israel, Israel threatening Turkey, Israel in Syria, Israel in Lebanon, Israel in Gaza, Israel in the West Bank. Like all of these things still happening right now on a daily basis. But Donald Trump wants to say that he come in and he changed this whole country. And he's right. He did change this whole country to one that's absolutely being laughed at nonstop by everybody on this fucking planet.
And today our border is secure, jobs are up, inflation is down, investment
Lies.
is pouring in, factories are opening. Our military is more powerful than it has ever been before.
Right, which is a good kind of place to chime in and say, how can you be more powerful as a military when you have the least amount of interceptors you've ever had, okay? How could you possibly be as powerful as you've ever been as a military when you're talking about the severely low levels of stockpiles on ATACMS, right, or Tomahawks, or any of the long-range precision missiles that we're now drastically low on, and now basically forcing these different defense contractors to build different factories in order to try to keep up with the production levels that they'll need to keep up with Donald Trump's ongoing wars and bombing campaigns that he's fucking enacted in his second term here. So never a good thing when you're talking about 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years down the line of these products being available, and then compare that to the situation that we're in now and calling us the strongest we've ever been militarily, okay? As you have the commander-in-chief wasting billions and billions and billions of dollars of taxpayer money on fucking, outdated, outclassed battleships, okay? Things that have been obsolete since the early days of World War World War II, if not before that, right? Ever since the first bomb was strapped to an airplane, right? Ever since the first airplane landed on a fucking ship, which were later called aircraft carriers. That moment right there began the moment where battleships became obsolete, where the surface-to-surface battles between these large surface fleets of battleships and destroyers and cruisers and stuff became a thing of the past, okay? It was now going to be a fight of air power, air campaigns. The amount of planes that you could put on a ship, on an aircraft carrier, and then project that power into different areas of the world was going to be the way of the future, right? It was going to be militaries, armies, navies that were going to conduct battles out of sight, out of the range of sight. So ships that couldn't see each other but could pick each other up on radar, right? They could send their aircraft to go see them without ever making visual contact with the enemy themselves. That was the way of the future, which inevitably made these battleships obsolete, these slow-moving. I mean, when you're talking about, the battleships that were built by Germany and Japan, right? I mean, and even they met their maker. Even they were fucking, relegated to the bottom of the sea. I mean, when you talk about Yamato, you guys, I mean, holy shit. Okay. Little history here, guys. Little history. We'll just take a quick look at why it is so futile for Donald Trump to be building battleships. And again, I know they're not battleships, so to speak, the way that you'll think about them in World War II. But Donald Trump said that they were going to be bigger. They were going to be more. They would have more fucking firepower on them. They were going to be twice as big and twice as powerful. So if that was to come true, which again, I don't think the numbers actually, represent that as far as the statistics for the ships that they were building. But check this out. So we're talking about Battleship Yamato, right? The heaviest, most powerfully armed battleship ever constructed. Right? And that met its maker. Okay? That didn't do well. So it says the Japanese battleship Yamato was the lead ship of her class, the heaviest, most powerfully armed battleship ever constructed, displacing roughly 72,000 tons at full load and carrying massive 18.1-inch main guns. She served as the flagship for the Imperial Japanese Navy during World War II before being sunk by U.S. carrier aircraft on April 7, 1945. Okay? I mean, this thing was an absolute fucking beast of a ship, okay? This thing had armor thicker than any other ship that's ever fucking existed. It was bigger. It had bigger guns. The way in which they thought they were going to be able to utilize this, as far as the Japanese Navy was concerned, compared to the ultimate destruction of vessels just like this and any of the larger battleships that Germany constructed either, that literally had to fucking be hiding in Norwegian fjords for fear of the Royal Air Force, the RAF, finding them and being able to sink them with very big bombs, let's just say. Again, just shows you how obsolete these ships were back in the 40s. Okay, so forget drone warfare, right? We're not even talking about, hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, the amount of technology that has kind of, continued and progressed throughout drone warfare, and how easy it was for the Ukrainians, to use another example there with their drone babies, their sea babies that they used, the unmanned sea drones. Like, that's all it would take. We're not even talking about aerial threats anymore. Like, just a whole army, a whole fucking, a whole squadron, basically, of these sea drones, surrounding a vessel at port, a vessel anywhere that it's found, will have huge impacts, right? Could have devastating impacts on these, in comparison, slow-moving, lumbering, large targets, easily visible and spotted targets, like these battleships were. But, Donald Trump doesn't see that, but he considers himself a military genius, high on his own supply after the. See if we can go on here with this next. What were we covering? I forget what we were just even talking about. What clip were we just showing? Was it this one? Was it the Michael Vin? No, we already went through with that one. Which one was I talking about? Oh, it was the Trump. Yeah, it was the Trump out of speech. My apologies. So again, he has the ability to just be totally fucking removed from my thought process like that. Let's see. I don't think there was anything else that we needed to cover from this South Carolina Myrtle Beach interview, Myrtle Beach press conference, or whatever you want to call it, rally, whatever the fuck it was. But all right, let's call out this asshole. All right, because we got one more asshole to call out, and then we'll get into some of the updates from the front lines of Ukraine, and then I'll get you guys out of here. But I definitely have to call this scumbag out here. And again, this is Tim Pool telling everybody kind of the problems that we're facing right now without allowing people to, or telling people that he's responsible for those problems, right? So he's now trying to tell people what a damaging situation we could be facing here with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, while trying to remove himself from the accountability, from the, the responsibility that he has of why we're in this moment. Again, somebody who did and continues to do for years now, Donald Trump's whitewashing, Donald Trump's propaganda, Donald Trump's obfuscation, lying about the Democrats, lying about Democratic politicians, lying about Democratic policies, the ways in which that he's helped Donald Trump get into his second term and become the political fucking destructive force that he's become is largely due in part to people like Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Laura Loomer, and the rest of these fucking freaks. So the fact that he tries to, again, sit on the fence and try to make it seem like, oh, I'm just reporting on this stuff from a 30,000-foot view, like, is just asinine. And I will not allow him to get away with it. I will not allow him to kind of whitewash his, the responsibility he has, the affinity he has, and again, the relationship he has with this administration and how responsible he is for this moment. But this is Tim Pool, and we just a couple minutes of this again. We don't have to watch too many, where he's going through these different problems that we're now facing. Again, this is the Israeli strikes on the base in Syria to prevent Turkish troops from deploying, which inevitably, led to a response by the Turkish government. I forget which official, exactly it was, but basically saying, hey, if Israel wants to threaten us, if they decide to attack, then obviously we're going to defend ourselves, paraphrasing, of course. But let's see here what Tim Pool is trying to at least warn his audience about, while also removing himself from the accountability of getting us into these dangerous situations. So he's going to talk about Israel and Syria, Israel and Turkey here, and then he goes into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which, again, Donald Trump, out of his own mouth, told you was going to be a huge, huge problem if this persisted, which it has. So again, let's call out Dim Fool here. And if you could hit that like button, if you could hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, that would be fantastic as we try to fight through the old algorithm wars, the algorithm gods, the old algorithm monsters that try to keep us down here, the deep state algorithm gods. All right, let's get into it. I appreciate you guys.
Here's the crazy thing. This is an attack from Israel on Turkey, and it's on the borderline. Here's the thing. If Israel were to actually launch strikes on Turkish deployments or in their country, that would trigger Article 5 of NATO, and the U.S. would be required to come to Turkey's aid. Against Israel? Wow. This is getting really weird.
And again, this is what's set up with the new economic World War II, right? This new economic trade war that Scott Bessent and Donald Trump have kind of thrust upon Iran and all of its trade partners, Turkey being one, right? Turkey's a NATO ally. How is that going to work? How are we going to be able to pressure Turkey, right, or demand that Turkey cut off all of its trade or, economic dealings with Iran, right? As we're watching them engaged in these kind of back and forths, this escalation of rhetoric and action between Israel and Turkey at the same time, as we're aligned with Israel in a fight against Iran. Like, you can see how this is becoming increasingly more complicated as, more parties get involved, as the United States involves, Pakistan, Iraq, Turkey, China, Russia, and any other Iranian economic trade partners. Like, it becomes increasingly more complicated. Like, it's going to get, it just opens up more routes for this thing getting worse, right? For this thing kind of falling off a cliff. And that's before we get into the petroleum reserves, right? So this is just the beginnings here, the oranges, if you're Donald Trump, as he would explain, of kind of the problems that we're now facing with instability in this greater area, right?
Say this, the war effort and what we've been seeing, it's getting pretty scary as we got this report from the Post-Millennial. Depletion of strategic petroleum reserves to lowest level since 1982. Risks damage to storage caverns. Yeah, I don't really care about the storage caverns. Yeah.
Well, you fucking better, Tim. You should, because I don't know. I'm no petroleum expert. You'd probably have to ask, Mr. Global about this. But if, let's just say, these huge salt caverns start collapsing into all of the petroleum, into all of the oil, I'm going to say that's going to add probably, I don't know, either time, added cost, ruin it altogether. Like, I'm sure that's going to have, not good effects, not good impacts, if it's something that these experts are trying to say that we should, at all costs, try to avoid. Right? So it says the U.S. plans to release 172 million barrels of oil, which will further deplete the supply. So they've been, again, dipping into this petroleum reserve to try to keep the prices somewhat consistent, somewhat stable. And so we don't see the $150, $200 a barrel prices for oil. But that's having dramatic impacts, dramatic effects on, obviously, the reserve itself and the position that we find ourselves in and the levels in which that they sit at. Because apparently, and again, take this with a grain of salt. Again, no pun intended as far as the salt caverns are concerned. But I've heard experts talk about the fact that if the storage amounts get so low, if the levels get so low, then it has an impact on the salt caverns actually collapsing in on themselves, which I would have an assumption, I would assume would go on to impact the oil that is still remaining in there. So I don't know if that would have to be, again, kind of filtered out, the rocks and the salt or anything can be filtered out, and it would just add time onto the process, cost onto the process, thus adding to the cost of the oil. Or if it, again, just kind of makes it, unusable, right? I would struggle to believe that it would make it unusable, considering that's where they store them in the first place. But, would have to kind of learn as to kind of how damaging that would be if, in fact, and obviously it would depend on how big the collapse was and how much of these salt caverns were actually disintegrating because of the low levels of oil as far as the damage is coming from them. But here's Tim, again, being like, well, look at this huge problem. Look at this huge economic red flag and thing that could be like the what throws the economy over the edge. But boy, oh boy, let me just report this like I had nothing to do with it, right? He is directly responsible for this. Tim Pool is directly responsible, along with all of his other cohorts, along with all of his other fucking gaslighters and the people from Tenet Media, anybody else that took a fucking Russian ruble to spread, anti-Ukrainian propaganda or pro-Russian propaganda or anti-democratic propaganda or pro-Republican propaganda, is responsible for this direct situation. And this is the same thing that Trump was saying. I'm looking for the clip in the background here from Trump. But there was a clip, a video of him being like, listen, if you think like the economic problems you're seeing right now from this war are bad, like you haven't seen anything yet, right? Let me see this one. I think this is the one, if I'm not mistaken. Throw this on your screen. Remember he said this?
A wise man once said in January of 2020, Iran never won a war, but never lost a negotiation. That wise man.
Who said that?
Donald Trump.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to say.
So how do you go back to the United States and convince a skeptical American public that this deal is a win?
Here they lost militarily, okay? It's very tough because I know that no matter what, if I would go, by the way, if I'd go another 3 or 4 weeks, those same people that are critical would say, he went too long, he should have done, no matter what. If they raised the white flag of surrender, and if they said, praise be to Allah, Donald Trump is the greatest president ever. We totally concede. We totally give up. This war is over. We have failed. The New York Times and CNN and a couple of others are not all that dishonest. They say Iran had a great victory, okay? And they practically do that. It's amazing. When we knocked out their last ship, they had 159 ships. When we knocked out the last ship, the Times refused to do a story on it. They said, why wouldn't you? They don't have a Navy, and you don't want to do a story on it. They don't have an Air Force. You don't want to do a story. We need a fair press. And that's why they're all doing so badly, because they lost credibility. When I win in a landslide and I had 93% bad press, they take good stories about me and make them bad. But the only reason that happened is because they have so little, the media has so little credibility that the people voted for me. 93% of the stories on network, ABC is horrible. I think ABC is the worst. NBC is terrible. And CBS is terrible. CNN, obviously. And I never get good stories, no matter what I do. I could do the greatest thing. I won't get good stories on this. I'll get it from fair media. I'll get it from all over the world. They're running good. But no matter what I do, I'm going to get bad press. I know that. Now, if I did the opposite, if I went out and continued to bomb them for another 4, just bomb the hell out of them, I'd get bad press on that. No, there's nothing I can do. But what this does is it allows the ships to go. If we keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid. It's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. There are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me how smart they are, ask them, why didn't they blow up?
So again, that's January 17th, right, where he's saying that in 4 weeks, our reserves, you hear what he said there? Our reserves would be wiped out, okay? So again, this is June 17th, and he said in 4 weeks, if we continued the bombing, if we continued this war, if this continues, then our strategic reserves would be basically wiped out. And he said, if you wanted to see bedlam, if you expect to see bedlam, from the, if you're thinking it's bedlam, what you're seeing from the wars, wait till you see what happens when we finally run out of our reserves for petroleum reserves. Like, check this out. Listen one more time.
We keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid. It's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. There are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me.
So again, you want to see bedlam, he says, then that's what you need to see in order to see bedlam. Like, real bedlam would come when the economy really tips over the edge because the strategic petroleum reserve has been tapped out. Right, we have no way in which to again mitigate the price increases. Again, the economic downfall from that and the ramifications from that would be almost too much to explain. Right, to kind of put into words. Like, it would be exponential how dangerous that would be. So by my calculations, June 17th is more than 4 weeks ago. Right, so. Again, somewhere in that vicinity, we could tell that we're getting very close to this tipping point. A lot of the experts are sounding the alarms, like we talked about, sounding the alarms on the petroleum reserve. And Tim Pool here now, forced to talk about it on his show. So let's see what else he's got to say about this, and again, how he tries to disassociate himself from the reason that we're seeing this.
I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm worried about the United States depleting its petroleum reserves in a war that is ongoing with no end in sight. And a question of...
Man, so let me ask you a question then. Why did you vote for the guy that you knew was lying to your face about starting no new wars? Why would you vote for the guy that lied 30,000 plus times in his first administration? Why would you believe a fucking thing out of that pedophile's mouth? Why would you believe the guy that sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll? Why would you believe the guy that cheated on his wife 5 months after she gave birth to his son with a porn star? Right? Like, why? What made you believe that you could trust in what the guy that was promising you all of these fucking, the economic golden age of the United States and everything was going to be half the price? And boy, oh boy, was this going to be a fantastic time for the economy in the United States. You believe that? After what he did to the economy in the first term, after how he handled COVID, after what he did after January 6th, and you still voted and supported that guy? And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit, man, look at the situation that we're in. This is a bad situation. I wonder how we got here. Well, it's because of you, Tim. It's because of you and Benny Johnson, Candace Owens, Laura Loomer, the rest of these degenerates out there, like fucking Jake Lang, who I was happy to see got arrested again. That guy's really racking up his mugshot photos. What's he got, about 30 of those things now? I mean, and he keeps getting lucky. I got to say, Jake Lang, the luckiest thing that can happen to him is he gets only arrested at these little events that he puts on, at these so-called protests that he's putting on. Because again, it's at some point, it's got the opportunity, I'll keep it PC, it has the opportunity to get much worse for Jake Lang. So he should thank his lucky stars that he continues to get arrested and to be able to spend a night in jail without the dangers and threats that he's under when he's on the streets, yelling the N-word and talking about Muslims and Arabs and, anything else and all the slurs that he puts out there. But yeah, here's Tim now talking about the dangers that we're facing because of the guy that he put into office.
Why are we doing it? Now, of course, my friends, we can pull up this beautiful map here of the region. I know everybody's just sick and tired of the Middle East. But there are questions over what is the purpose of this conflict. And, I know there are a lot of people that are going to give you surface level answers. Well, Israel pressured the United States into the war with Iran because they hate Iran. My only question is, what is the strategic or ideological motivation for Israel going to war with Iran?
Easy. Very easy. Twofold. One, to take out and eliminate the Iranian leadership, the Iranian government, to hopefully install a more friendly government. Or if, in the case of Benjamin Netanyahu, just to be involved in a forever ongoing war, so then he could forever and ultimately escape accountability for his corruption trial in Israel, right? He can continue to say that, we can't deal with that right now because we have so many existential threats, right? We have so many people that want to take out this country and harm us that we can't possibly deal with a corruption trial right now. And at the same time, can't possibly deal with this warrant that I have, in the international community through the International Criminal Court because I'm a fucking war criminal. So this long war, these prolonged wars and these engagements that, I'm the only leader that can save us and, nobody else should be able to take my place is helping him stay in that position of power. The instability, the reason in which he was funding Hamas to begin with, right? He knew that instability between the West Bank and Gaza was something that he could exploit, something that he could utilize in order to continue to make it seem like there was ongoing threats and a reason for him to be, as aggressive and to continue to stay in power as long as he has, right? So it's kind of a two, and I'm sure he could add 3 and 4 more folds onto that as far as reasons behind it. I'm sure a lot of, financial situations and way that they could profit. Obviously, to the expansion of the Israeli territory. If they could create this buffer zone, as much as they could push into Lebanon, as much as they can, harm Syria, bomb Syria, if they could, take away and lessen Iran's military capabilities, if they could go in and destruct their leadership, if they could eliminate the IRGC, clearly that would open up more passage and more power for the Israelis in that area of influence, and they wouldn't have to worry about retaliations. They wouldn't have to worry about anything else like that, to the extent that they have been up until now, and again, probably for good reason there. But that's a couple of the ways in which that it could benefit Israel and why they would enact this war. Same reason that they've been trying to enact this war for generations, right? I mean, the answers haven't changed. The reasons really haven't changed why Benjamin Netanyahu has tried to get the American people, the American government, to believe that Iran has a nuclear weapon or is trying to stride towards a nuclear weapon for about 30 fucking years at this point. So, again, the reasons haven't changed, and so that he could stay in power, and so that he could be this great wartime leader, so that he could expand the territory of Israel into these different facets, so that he could, again, get out of his culpability, get out of his corruption trial, and again, the international warrant he has for being a war criminal. All right, I'm kind of over, so we're going to jump into a little bit of the updates from the front lines, and then I'll get you guys out of here. I did want to start with this because we've touched a lot on the importance of the Ukrainians and obviously the European allies, and in a perfect world with a real administration, the United States, and their involvement in trying to supply Ukraine with added resources, whether that be Patriots or THAADs or anything they can to mitigate the damages they're seeing now from these Russian ballistic and hypersonic threats that are increasing and are becoming more and more devastating in effect with every single attack here. But this is something that I believe was reported last month. It's being kind of talked about now again, brought back up and reiterated again, obviously with the recent issues. But it is good to see. So we'll just talk about it here and I'll bring it to you guys. It says Zelensky and Macron held an almost 2-hour call focused heavily on Ukraine's increasingly urgent air defense problem. So obviously, President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, and the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, is who we're talking about here. France will accelerate deliveries of its latest equipment and missiles, while Macron confirmed additional interceptors will be sent to Ukraine. So again, even as minute as it might be as far as trying to make up the difference between the ballistic and hypersonic missile capabilities of Russia and the lack of the American-built, American-made Patriots and THAADs that were so heavily used and effective as to trying to shoot down these Russian missiles. But this is, again, just something to try to fill the void. So it says more significantly, Zelensky says France is ready to provide licenses for missile production, and that Macron will personally help approach countries holding the Patriot missiles Ukraine urgently needs. So Macron offering to do more work in approaching countries that hold Patriot missiles to hopefully, get them to relinquish or give up or part with some of those in order to send them to Ukraine for their added air defense. Obviously, sending additional interceptors from France is desperately needed. And great to see. It says the two leaders also discussed coordination with the U.S.'s president's team and agreed on steps they believe could open up additional diplomatic opportunities ahead of Monday's coalition of the willing meeting. The message from Paris is increasingly explicit. Countries holding air defenses, available air defense capabilities, are being asked to release them to Ukraine here. And you can see that with a picture of the Lockheed Martin supplied missile there. But I just wanted to continue to touch base. I believe that was first talked about, first discussed last month. Again, I could have the reports mixed up as far as just kind of the announcements of that and maybe that in the future. But good to see that in some way, shape, or form, some of the European allies, at least France in this instance, are stepping up and at least trying to send them more interceptors and obviously trying to help engage in more talks with other countries that do have these interceptors, hopefully to get them to send them to Ukraine in whatever numbers they're able to send those to hopefully defend against these Russian missile attacks. So just going to throw this on real quick. We're going to do a quick frontline update. Denis Davidov giving us a quick frontline update. And then I have a quick update on some strikes overnight from the Ukrainians. Apparently, targeting a hub that is not wild berries in Russia, but is like the next biggest kind of competitor. I think it's called Ozon, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines. We'll bring it up there. Professor Gerz kind of explains that as well. So, Ukraine kind of working down the line as far as these facilities that have a big impact on the Russian economy and what that means. So, all right, we'll get into this Denis Davidov video real quick, giving us some updates. I believe we're talking about the Zaporizhia front, in and around Zaporizhia. He's going to be talking about more specifically in this clip. So let's get into it. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. Thank you guys so much to everybody that sticks around. Typically, the second half of the show around there is dedicated to any highlights, information, updates coming from Ukraine, any information from, strikes from Russia into Kyiv, Lviv, other areas of Ukraine, and then obviously any strikes that Ukraine is responsible for, obviously inside of occupied Ukrainian territory and, more favorably inside of Russia proper itself. So we try to keep people as up to speed and up to date on what's going on here. And I just thank you guys for anybody that sticks around to the end of the show, knowing that this is what we cover. It is, very important for me. I'm very passionate about these issues so that everybody that sticks around and kind of supports that passion and is passionate about it yourself, I really do admire and appreciate. So let's get into this again. Denis Davidov talking about a little bit of the frontline news in the Zaporizhia front. Let's get into it.
Hello, my friends, and welcome. I hope you're doing great. And let's start this video from the front lines review. Let's move into Zaporizhia direction, the southern part of it, where Ukraine started the counteroffensive, a small one, just today towards Stepove. There was the movement of the Ukrainian armed forces just a little bit more into this settlement, which is now, as you might say, is in the gray area, or the gray zone at least partially. There are some of the buildings also in the red one, but it's definitely hard to judge. The front lines, they're boiling, and no military map may show you for sure what exactly is happening with precise details. But I refer to some of the analysts, like for example, this map is taken from the Michael73, who has his Twitter account here, and I recommend to follow him because he has regular updates almost daily about the war in Ukraine, and not only. And I would say that his military map is one of the most reliable ones out there online. But the information about the movement of the Ukrainian armed forces towards Stepove I got from the Russian channel. So this is the Russian military blogger Rybar. He also posts his maps regularly. However, of course, this is the part of the Russian propaganda.
So again, and this is probably even more, I don't even know what's the word I'm looking for. This is probably more impactful, let's just say, when it's coming from the Russians' maps. So the Syriac maps and the maps that are a little bit more favorable to, the propaganda coming out from Russia, their flag planting ceremonies, and ones that are tried to make it seem like they hold this territory, but they really don't. But when you're looking in this area down here, right, like you can see even their detailing, see these blue, you can see these blue arrows down here detailing a Ukrainian attack. Obviously, the red going into Ukrainian territory, as the opposite is the Russians having, trying to attack into those specific areas. But you're looking here, some pretty big areas of blue arrows. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be the general vicinity that he was just speaking about near Stepove. And you can see here, even further south, they're going to have some Ukrainian attacks dictated as well. So this is the Russians. Again, they have no kind of reason to overstate the Ukrainians' capabilities or movements. So when they're even showing these on their maps, then you could probably kind of confirm at least something is going on in those segments, in those areas. And then if you can compare that to, again, Deep State or the Institute for the Study of War and their maps and the information coming out, then you can, again, piece together what may be real and what might not be real.
Nevertheless, sometimes Rybar shares and confirms the information.
Rybar, too, that's another one. So Syriac and Rybar, those are two, like, favoring the Russians kind of rhetoric, the Russian statements and their kind of, where their projections on where they say the militaries actually stand.
Even about the Ukrainian counteroffensive operations in Stepova. But at the same time, you see that they put Stepova into...
This exploded box that's up above my head is that same box that's right down here. So this box right here is that one that you can see exploded up at the top. So that specific area, which is, again, detailing the Ukrainian counteroffensive, counterattacks, or just attacks in general, is the same area in which that we are discussing. So you can see, even detailed by Rybar and the Russian maps, that the Ukrainians are trying something in this area, let's just say.
To the red zone, so occupied by the Russian forces. So the situation for Russia in the southern part of Zaporizhia is not that great. They lost all of the initiatives and there are no even intentions to counterattack. Yeah, they show those arrows, but according to the data coming from other analysts, nothing like that is happening. There are no attempts of even infiltration attacks from the Russian side in the southern part.
So he's talking about the Russians trying to counterattack the Ukrainians pushing into that area. So he says it shows that one red arrow that you can see there on the screen. But if you're listening to a lot of the experts, if you're listening to a lot of the reports coming from the area, then that's kind of just like, wishful thinking on the part of Rybar, on the part of this map, and hoping that that the Russians are trying to push back the Ukrainians. But in reality, I don't see any other red, there are no red, other red arrows in that area, right? So it doesn't really depict that the Russians have spent or pushed in a lot of manpower or resources to try to mitigate these new incursions by the Ukrainian military, at least in the Zaporizhia area. Like we're focused on a small area in and around Zaporizhia right now. This isn't a broader statement as it pertains to the general front. This is, again, we're talking about this specific area in near Stepove.
Zaporizhia. But at the same time, I may confirm this Russian offensive towards Orikhiv. It was definitely cross-checked by some of the analysts that Russia tries to cut connections between Orikhiv and Malatok-Machka. One of the confirmations was also published by the Miko 73 OSINT. Definitely several of the Russian infiltration attacks were spotted in this place, 2, maximum 3 soldiers, but for now the information came that all of those waves were...
Again, this on the opposite side of things is information about the Russians pressing into a certain area that can be corroborated by, certain reporting and certain people that are looking at what's happening on the ground. So again, this isn't us trying to do, and this isn't Dennis, in respect for Dennis for everything that he does, this isn't him trying to do just general Ukrainian propaganda, okay? This isn't picking just any of the good things that are happening and not talking about any of the negative impacts, the negative things that are happening on the front or in the war in general. Like we've gone from right here talking about how the Ukrainians are being effective in an area the Russians are even themselves talking about, and then talking about in the same area, the Russians pushing into kind of this spot, this territory, this type of area in which that can be kind of corroborated. Whether or not it's having successes or not, or the successes they'd like to see, is another question, but at least they are attempting this push that you're now looking at on your map.
Stopped. And guys, just a short break, which is very, very important. Please press your...
Let me see. We could probably go on because, like I said, I just wanted to show you that Ukrainians were having some impact in that specific area. And then I want to show you this one, too, because a new phase seemingly has started in this war for the Ukrainians, and they are now going down the list as far as these, production facilities, these type of wild berries facilities, Amazon type warehouses and companies. So wild berries is now not the only one on the list that's being targeted. I believe the Orazan or Ozan or one of them is kind of a smaller wild berries type facility and factories that people are now trying to utilize more and more because the wild berries are getting hit. Well, apparently the Ukrainians are noticing that, taking note, and then utilizing their drone capabilities to start attacking these facilities as well. So this is Professor just talking about how this kind of next phase has begun and how it's starting to hit Russia because they're just not able to defend against everything. The amount of targets that the Ukrainians are going after on a nightly basis. Russia has nowhere near the air defenses, right? Has nowhere near the capabilities to install air defenses, adequate air defenses against all of these resources, against all of these different oil facilities, against all of the different wild berries, the resupply routes. It just is not possible for them to do so. So at some point, hopefully, the amount that we're able to take out as far as the Ukrainians are concerned, the damages that we're able to inflict on Russia far outweigh the levels in which they're able to rebuild. Right. So obviously, we're hoping to take out more soldiers off the battlefield than Russia can put onto the battlefield. We want to take out more from the economy than they're able to put back into the economy or to save the economy. We want to take out more oil and oil refinery and capabilities that they have than they have the ability to make money off of that. So again, it's a kind of it's a long road and it's kind of almost biting at the dogs of an ankle, but those bites are getting increasingly closer to a main artery, let's just say, if we're continuing the comparison there. But all right, let's just a couple minutes and I'll get you guys out of here of this Professor video, because in the first couple minutes, he just kind of explains the new phase and how it's kind of shifted on here to different sites that the Russians thought they would be safe using because the Ukrainians were only going after wild berries, but apparently that has now changed.
It's Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. Something significant has just shifted. There's a new phase. Now, it's a continuation of what was going on with wild berries, but the next phase just started. Ozon was just hit for the first time. Now, if you recall, Ozon at one point...
I find this to be pretty fucking funny, right? I find this to be pretty fucking funny. So apparently on these, or on at least one of these Ozon facilities, again, Ozon being another one of these Amazon type, as I recall, or as I've been kind of led to believe, just a smaller business, a smaller type wild berries. Well, basically they painted on their roof, "This is not wild berries. Please fly away." Basically speaking to the Ukrainian drone operators, being like, "Hey, don't strike this. This is not a wild berries." Like, that's fucking funny. It says Firepoint CEO Stitlerman, after wild berries comes Ozon, he urged Russians to withdraw their money from banks, warning of a banking collapse. They launched a game asking users to guess the next wild berries warehouses to burn. So again, we're gonna have to expand our bingo. It's no longer just kind of relegated to the wild berries facilities. So we're gonna have to start adding on the Ozon facilities as well.
So, warehouse logistics kind of hub. They were once begging, "This is not wild berries. Please fly away." Painted that on their roof. Firepoint CEO Dennis Stillerman said, "After wild berries comes Ozon," and he urged Russians to withdraw their money from.
And again, you can see here kind of the new Ozon. What do you call it? Bingo card that we got set up here, and this is apparently where they wrote, "This is not wild berries." And again, I don't know if that's true or if it's a meme that was made up or anything like that, but funny nonetheless.
Okay, this is as wild berries warehouses were being hit. This was July 29th. Okay, well, here we see this. This is the Ministry of Defense posting Ozon holes. Defense forces strike Ozon logistics hub in Samara region. And here's what it looks like. Okay, so Drone Bomber posted this. The hunt for Ozon warehouses has officially begun. After most wild berries warehouses were put out of action, Ozon's turn has finally come. Now, I think wild berries will still be hit, but I've talked about this before.
Right. He's right. I don't think this is going to be a dramatic switch from wild berries to Ozon, but as you can see here, it says the Russian sellers have been massively switching to Ozon. So anybody that's fearful of their business, somebody that maybe has some stock left that didn't have it all totally wiped away in whatever wild berries that have been burnt to the fucking ground, like they're trying to now move their logistics, production capabilities to these new Ozon warehouses, which is why you can be sure that the Russian military is probably trying to follow suit as far as getting their equipment, body armor, components for whatever they use to try to kill Ukrainian civilians and military. So obviously the Ukrainians are now looking at the Ozon's turn and being like, okay, well, looks like you're next on this. We're going to continue to just strike as many of these places as humanly possible. Obviously make the Russian citizens feel the pain, feel the pinch without targeting Russian civilians. So this isn't, having them feel the pain and the pinch by taking out apartment complexes, apartment blocks, hospitals, and schools like Russia is doing in Ukraine. This is, the economic route, the financial route, right? Devastating them because they will no longer have a place to work, devastating them because they will no longer have their business that was running out of these warehouses, whatever it may be. It's secondary. It's secondary to, again, the direct impact to your home or, again, your family. It's something completely different. But the amount of targets that they're able to hit now does not give kind of a rosy outlook to the future of these ozone warehouses, let's just say. And it says the unmanned systems forces have already the necessary experience while most of these facilities are within reach. Time to start knocking out several warehouses per night, and I'm sure that's something on the definitely on the radar of Robert Magyar.
Moment. The timing is perfect. Russian sellers.
I think there was one other one as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Experience, while most of these facilities are within reach, time to start knocking out several warehouses per night. So this is a ozone warehouse bingo card. And so what was just hit here is the 5th largest, and it says 135,000 meters square on the bingo card. But I want to show you some contradictory kind of understanding of what
you can see here. The other ones too: Orenburg, we got Omsk, we got Ufa. Right, so these are places that have already been hit by Ukraine. Here's Perm. So again, not the ozone warehouses themselves, but the areas in which targets Ukrainians have targeted either oil infrastructure or something else in that area, whether it's a wildberries. So definitely within range, definitely within the capabilities. We've heard Yaroslavl a lot. Where else have we heard? Saratov we've heard, Omsk as well, Yekaterinburg, St. Petersburg, right? So all of these places have definitely seen at least once or twice Ukrainian drones flying above these skylines, and in a lot of these cases have seen substantial fires and smoke plumes rising above the city or towns or villages.
Size was just hit. Okay, so here it's carried in TASS. More than 500 employees have been evacuated from a fire at Ozon warehouse in the Samara region, the e-commerce retailer said. Now, that's low compared to what the governor is saying, but okay, let's look at this. Moscow Times, the strike is the first on Ozon so far after weeks of attacks targeting larger rival wildberries. Here it is in the Moscow Times. Ukrainian drones hit a warehouse.
So it says Ukrainian drones killed at least 6 people overnight in a wave of strikes on Russia that also hit a warehouse owned by online retailer Orzanand, an industrial facility in the Samara region. In the Post-Telegram, Samara region governor Vyacheslav Fedorashev said that several people were wounded in the strikes. He did not name the industrial facility that was targeted. Ozon, Russia's second largest online retailer, said in a statement on Telegram that the work at its Samara region logistics center in the town of Chapyevsk had been halted after the strike, which it said caused injuries. So again, this is a pretty clear indication that more of these facilities, more of these warehouses can expect a lot of the same, a lot similar treatment. And let me just see here if there was anything else before I get you guys out of here from the professor. Let's see if he usually throws up an update around this time about any of the strikes overnight by the Ukrainians. Let me see if there was anything in this one, and I'll get you guys out of
Busy
here.
night last night. They hit 2 more warehouses and 2 more aircraft reported, although I don't see much about the aircraft. I just see it in the statistics from the unmanned systems forces. Let me show you what was going on last night. Overnight strikes. First, before this, I don't have Drone Bomber's map because Drone Bomber posted this. As you have noticed, there was...
So again, I think he just goes over the strikes that we were just talking about on those Ozon warehouses. Let me see if there was anything else. That's the one. Drones hit an Ozon marketplace hub in Orenburg, forcing 300 staff to evacuate. Concurrently, a massive 82,000 square meter blaze engulfed a warehouse in St. Petersburg in Iziora, industrial zone near another Ozon facility. So you can see how these, again, in wide-ranging aspects of Russia, were targeted. Says a large fire engulfed a warehouse complex in the Iziora region, industrial site in the Kopino near St. Petersburg after Ukrainian drone attacks. The industrial zone hosts heavy engineering, metallurgy, and metalworking enterprises, as well as facilities producing equipment for Russia's energy and nuclear industries. The site is opposite an Ozon logistics hub. me see if there's anything else here. There's a couple aircraft that was reported struck as well. 2 aircraft in one night, while the table shows 27 fixed-wing UAVs hit. The Air Force is bleeding out quietly. No headlines, just numbers. Every drone that gets through shows how cheap this war is for Ukraine and how costly it is for Russia. Let me see if there's anything else as far as these reports on these ships on the planes that were hit. I think it was this one.
Helicopters. I'm not sure what base. So, okay. Then there were the
says, according to the Ukrainian Unmanned Systems Forces, 2 aircraft and/or helicopters were hit overnight. We're waiting for the footage and the confirmation, but you can see here in the the listing of things that were hit. You can see that there were, it says 101 enemy personnel. I don't know what that means. 101 doesn't really make much sense as far as that number was concerned. It says another drone launch positions 11, antennas 27, aircraft and helicopters 2, power hubs 5. Let's see, we could probably go into the Kyiv Independent before I get you guys out of here, right? And just show you the Russian losses over the last 24 hours. And that'll probably give us a round ending to the show. We can end on that. So let me just scroll through Kyiv Independent real quick until I get back down to their numbers. There we go, right here. Didn't take long. All right, so this is just over the last 24 hours as far as Russian losses are concerned. And again, it was 1,240 troops. I don't know what that 101 was talking about. I don't know if that was like a specific unit, maybe. But this is saying at least 1,240 Russian troops were eliminated from the battlefield, either dead or severely wounded in the last 24 hours. Another 6 armored fighting vehicles, another 435 vehicles and fuel tanks, another 6 actual tanks, another 64 artillery systems, another almost 2,000 drones and UAVs, another 2 MLRSs, which are multiple launch rocket systems, and another 3 anti-aircraft warfare, another 6 pieces of special equipment. Doesn't say registered the planes yet. I think they probably wait for those confirmations as well. So it doesn't register the plane or the helicopter. So we'll see if we can get you guys some confirmation on that, update you guys on that on the next show, let you know if in fact those videos have been released where we can show you the downing of those planes, the confirmation of the strikes at least. But yeah, it's a wild and wacky time right now. It is, with the situation between the trade allies, trade partners of the United States. Donald Trump praising dictatorial, murderous dictators like Kim Jong-un as he's sending weapons and manpower to kill our allies in Ukraine. We're now continuously talking about what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz, what's happening with Iran, what that's looking like, the economic war that Donald Trump has pretty much placed upon, countries like Turkey, Iraq, China, Russia, Pakistan as a result, as it pertains to their trade with Iran. So there's a lot that we're going to have to keep our eye on coming up. A lot of very, very important things that are going to have huge impacts on the way that this world functions, huge impacts on, kind of what the future of this planet looks like, and kind of the alignments of different either bad actors or, again, if democracy prevails in general. A lot of these situations that we're facing right now are going to have the ability to answer some of those questions, or at least determine the outcome of a lot of those questions. But I do thank you guys for sticking with me as long as you have. Thank you for being as supportive of this show, this podcast, as you are. Appreciate anybody new that might be joining us from the interview that went out from myself and Jesse Dollamore. A lot of people commented and said they, subscribed and kind of liked what they saw as far as the content that they were watching so far. So hopefully you guys continue to join us on these live streams. I know sometimes 2 hours plus is difficult for people to sit down and watch the whole thing. But, even if you're doing it in segments, we try to release the shorts, kind of breaking down different moments of the live stream so you don't have to sit through the whole thing. I'm trying to get better at doing like longer form videos of the shorts, of the lives. So, trying to cut down like the segments that we do in particular, like, the Ukraine segment that we just did. But it's a little bit more difficult than trying to kick out shorts and different smaller portions of the show as well. So I'm doing my best. I'm trying. Thank you guys for your support. I'm going to thank people on the Venmo side of things right now, as I always do at the end of every single show. Anybody that sent in any amount, I don't care if it's a single fucking penny, gets appreciated, gets my gratitude at the end of every single show, as they deserve to, as they should. First today up is going to be Brian H., very familiar name on Venmo here. Much appreciated, Brian guy. He said, okay, 8.5 mile bicycle ride, cold shower, peanut butter toast, 6 yard bags. What do you clean a yard? Bri, you're an animal. Talk on, my friend. Talk on. Much appreciated, Bri. Thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you for your kind contributions, kind statements. Thank you, Geneva. Oh, thank you so much, Geneva. Geneva sent in 50 on Venmo. Much, much appreciated. Appreciate you, Brian, and your hard work. Love your show. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Geneva. Much appreciated. You are an incredible help to this program, an incredible support system to this program. And, I'm just very happy to have you here. Really am. So hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to Jenny Faye. Let's go, Jenny Faye. Please thank Corey as well for everything that you guys do. We get by with a little help from our friends. Glad to call you one. Hugs to you and the family. Well, that is incredibly sweet of you, Jenny Faye. Right back at you. The feeling is absolutely mutual. 100% couldn't be more mutual. So again, to the both of you guys, thank you guys so much for your fight, for your passion, for you guys supporting not only these different communities, but you speaking up yourself. Jenny Faye, having her own program out there, making sure that she's out there pointing out the bullshit as well. So much appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you to Roger and Karen. So much from, I believe, yesterday. No, that's today too. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Karen, as well. Celebrating Ukraine with the Ukraine flags. Much appreciated with a couple blue hearts. Thank you to you guys. Thank you to Jeff as well. Jeff put in a 420 contribution, as we do down here. I said, Dear Boston Brian, I am so sorry. I was an embarrassment walking the golf course. If there's anything else I've done to cause you trouble, please forgive me. I want things to always be right between us. If they are not, please don't worry, Boston Brian. I will find you. Gin Natalie. Oh my God, you crack me the fuck up. So again, a little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of making fun of Natalie Hopp and her letter to Donald Trump, in case anybody wasn't picking up on that. Jeff isn't that depraved, I promise you. He isn't that he isn't that crazy. He is a great guy and a great supporter of this program, but I love when I am sorry I was an embarrassment walking the golf course. If there's anything else I've done to cause you trouble, please forgive me. Oh my God, what timeline are we living in? And not for you, Jeff. I'm telling that just continues to bring up like questions surrounding Natalie Howe and her relationship with Donald Trump and like the letters and love notes that she writes. Like, what is this timeline? And then again, Brian H., much appreciated for another $5 contribution. Had to pay early because this morning. Well, thank you, Bri. Appreciate that. Whenever you can, doesn't matter if you're early, late, indifferent. Always doesn't matter. But thank you so much for your contribution. It is appreciated. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Joe. From people yesterday, Nancy, Brian, Joe, Marianth, Jeff again, Peter, Brian, Roxanne, Brian, Geneva, Candy, Brian, Brian, big showing here by Bri over the last couple months. I gotta say, I gotta give him credit where credit is due. And then Allison, thank you to Adam, thank you to Kathy, and then lastly, thank you so much to who was the last one? Oh, Marty. Thank you so much to Marty over the last couple days. You guys are continuously helping this show continue, helping to keep the lights on, helping to keep the microphone working, helping to keep some food in the belly here. And again, I can't thank you guys enough and show you guys how much I appreciate you. And how much, how much it's necessary, right? How much it's kind of desperate, as it were. But thank you guys. Let me go over here to the YouTube side of things. Well, thank you guys over here. We'll let you get on with your fabulous Sunday. Thank you to AIMZ, first and foremost today, kicking it off in the right direction with the thanks, Brian. No, thank you to AIMZ. Much appreciated for everything that you do. Again, I am very appreciative. So appreciative of you guys coming in here and, donating a couple bucks. And even if you're not donating a couple bucks, even if you're just adding to the chat, leaving a comment after, sharing the show out, anything that's free, doesn't cost you $1. I am very, very appreciative of you guys. So AMZ, thank you for kicking it off in the right way today. Thank you to moms. Good to see you, moms. Hope you're well. Miss you. 22 months. You must be doing something right. Love you all. Right back at you, moms. Hope to see you soon in one of our Zooms coming up. That would be fantastic. I feel like I haven't seen your pretty face in a while now. It's been much too long. Much too goddamn long. And you crack me up, too. So that's another reason why I want to see you. All right, moms, thank you so much for 22 months. And then right behind that with a $5 contribution with our weekly tithing. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for this channel and continue to do. If there's anything that you need, if there's anything that we can help you with, moms, you just let us know. And that goes for anybody else in the chat that may be facing some difficult times, whatever it may be. We try to do and share the wealth, spread the spread the community feeling here as much as humanly possible. No Money G, thank you as well. A little to help the green juice, Raycon earbuds, and BetterHelp ads away. Thanks, I appreciate that, No Money G, really, because that's ultimately what it comes down to, right? I mean, I continue to tell you that, we don't sell you any green juice here. We don't tell you that, this mattress that I'm sleeping on changed my fucking life, even though, again, it's still in the plastic, and they sent it to me last night so that I had something to show during the ad read that they paid me $700,000 to do. Or again, the earbud, well, Raycon earbuds, like the earbuds may be one that ain't bad. Again, I don't know, like what, I'm not saying Raycon in particular, like I don't know, but like earbuds may not be the worst. Obviously we need those, we use those, if like a microphone, maybe a microphone business, company wants to sponsor, like I think that'd be okay. But again, these other idiotic fucking ways in which that these sites try to use to make money and to get rich quick off of these schemes is not what I'm here to do. Okay, I'm not here to bombard you guys with ads. I'm not here to bombard you guys with ways in which that you can utilize my QR code and shit like that. No, none of that. We don't want anybody having the ability to tell us what we can and cannot say. I don't want to have to be thinking about, hey, can I talk about this today? Is this ad, is this ad and sponsor going to be okay if we say this? Like, that's not the way I want to do things. So, but as I continue to put up, if the decision is between, not doing any ads and, doing this broadcast, doing this live stream from a gutter on the side of the road, then fucking Raycon it is. But hopefully we don't ever get to that point. Hopefully the support from the community, the generosity of the viewers of this program make it so we don't ever have to think about that. So No Money G, thank you for making that a possibility. Appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Kristen, how are you? Good to see you, Kristen. Thank you for being a member for 27 months. Unbelievable. Thank you so much for that commitment. Thank you so much for that longevity. He says, Mark Levin, and KKK Caroline. Oh, hold on. We said her name. We got to play her song.
Caroline, she's the reason for the word
bitch. Levitt will do a shit show on, what's that say? Oh, on Fox. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all they're good for at this point in time, right? So very well stated. Kristen, thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for being a member for 27 months. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Sammy Joe. How are you, Sammy Joe? Good to see you. Thank you for the 30 jewels with the little flower. I don't know what kind of flower it is, but I like flowers. I'm a sucker for those type of things. But thank you, Sammy Joe, for the 30 jewels. Much appreciated. Carl Jacobson. How the hell are you, brother? How in the fuck are you? Great to see you, my friend. A member for 29 months here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel like it's the first time I've seen the name in a little bit. So great to see you. Happy to have you here. As always, a long-standing, member of the communities that you guys are all a part of. So much appreciated to Kyle. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you for being a member for 29 months as well. So you must have been watching from the background. I'm sure you were kind of watching and supporting from the background. So great to see you here. Thank you to Tony as well. Tony says, thanks, dude, with the $2 contribution. And it's sent right back your way, Tony. Thank you to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your, being in the chat and your contributions. Like, that's what keeps these shows running. So don't thank me. Thank you. Thank you to Bicycle Mike, F Israel, F Russia, F Trump, F Cancer. Seconded Bicycle Mike. Thank you for the $2. Hope you're well. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for being a part of this group. Same thing goes for David. Thank you for the $2. Much appreciated to you, my brother. Right after you is going to be Slacks. Slacks, what's up, my man? Member for 26 months. Love to you, brother. Love to all Bryantologists. Thank you to Slacks for everything you've done for this community as well. All of your support, being a member, all of your super chats, all of your fantastic statements. Can't thank you enough. Joining us in the Zooms and all those things. Hope you have a wonderful day, Slacks. Thank you for fighting alongside of us. DPD's been here for 12 months. 1 year for DPD. Let's go. W's in the chat for DPD. 1 year being a member here at Blunt Politics. Love you, Boston Brian. Keep on fighting, and I sure will, DPD. And it's only because of people, side by side, linked arm in arm with me, like you and everybody else here in this community, that I have and will continue to have the passion to keep up that fight. So much appreciated, DPD. Thank you to Dame Dog for the $5.99 weekend swear jar. I don't think my Venmo went through. Oh, well, hold on. Let me see. Did I miss one? Maybe I missed it. I don't want to miss it. Oh, there it is right there. I see it. Dame Dog, $10 weekend swear jar. It says $3.27. So yeah, my bad. I don't know how I missed that. My apologies. Thank you so much, Dame, for that as well. The $10 on the Venmo. I don't know why I missed that one. Thank you for double dipping though. Appreciate you, just to reiterate that. I hope you have a great day. Great to see you. Hope to see you in the next Zoom as well. Thank you to Karen, member for 14 months. Thanks for everything you do. Thanks for everything you bring to us. No, thank you for everything that you bring to me. This opportunity, again, the ability to bring you guys the insights, the news, to make this an actual career, to make this an actual job, which hopefully at some point will be sustainable, let's just say, financially viable at some point in time as we continue to build this community up. That is all due in part, and not in part, and due in whole to you guys and your support, your generosity, and the passion that you guys have for these topics and independent creators. So thank you so much to Karen. Thank you to Jenny Faye. Again, come on, you can't be double dipping like that. Don't be dumb like me. Remember the Zoom meetings. So fun to meet members of this great community. No, don't worry. A lot of people have tons of shit going on. So again, if you can join us on the Monday night Zoom meetings, please do. That means just signing up at patreon.com/BostonBrian for either one of the three great tiers that we have on there. Either one of them fits your financial capabilities and you find, it in your heart to want to support this channel, on a monthly basis. That's a great way in which you could do that. Obviously, the YouTube memberships as well. I think it's about $2.99 for a monthly membership. That does a great deal at helping show YouTube and the algorithm that you are involved, that you do like this channel, to the point where you're going to contribute financially and become a member. So again, all of that goes a great deal in helping, boost us up in the algorithm. So thank you so much, Jenny Faye, you and Corey, the both of you, for what you guys do, everything that you fight for. Very happy, and it's a privilege to be able to say that I know you guys. So thank you so much. Thank you to Jennifer as well, making Sundays happy. Thank you, sneaking in again. Well, Jennifer, thank you for sneaking in. I always appreciate anybody who's listening in the background, whether you're engaged in the chat, whether you watch at a later date after it's posted, whoever, again, in any way, shape, or form is helpful in making this thing a possibility, whether it's boosting the views, sharing it out, liking it, leaving a comment, all of those things. I just, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for. So much appreciated. Thank you to all the mods. Shout out to the mods. Big salute, as always, for everything that you guys do, fighting through the bullshit down there in the chat. And then, as always, to the best chat on the planet, bar none. Nobody can tell me any different. There's nobody that's going to gaslight me into saying that there's another community on social media that's better, that's stronger, that's more passionate, because it's just fucking horseshit. It's just horseshit. Here at Blunt Politics, the Bryantologists are the shit. You guys are the shit. So thank you so much for everything that you guys have been responsible for, capable of. Everything that you do, within your capabilities is absolutely fucking fantastic, and I can't thank you enough. So I will see you guys. What's today? Sunday. I will see you Tuesday for the Tuesday show. Make sure you guys stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive, stay informed, but most importantly, stay in the fight. Please keep your head on a swivel out there. If you're going out there protesting, if you're going out there, in support of democracy, against fascism, please make sure you're keeping your head on a swivel. Please make sure you're staying safe out there. Please make sure you're taking care of your mental health as well. If you find yourself feeling run down, if you find yourself feeling being mentally fatigued and anxious and angry all the time about these topics and situations, take a break, take a step back, take a couple days off, shut the phone off, or shut the politics side of the phone off, whatever you have to do to kind of, come back stronger, come back even more passionate and ready to rock and roll and ready to fight. That's what I advise you to do. So, if you need to take some time, take that time. To anybody else that stays here day after day fighting through the bullshit with me, I love you. I appreciate you. And I will see you on Tuesday. My name is Boston Brian. Oh, did I miss somebody? Oh, here it is. Hold on. I see you in there, SFL. You can't sneak that one by me. Nope, you're not going to sneak that one by me. I see you in there. $7 contribution. Much appreciated, SFL. Great to see you in the chat, as always. What's that say? Free hugs? Hey, I'm a hug guy. Don't threaten me with a good time. I give the best hugs around. Ain't nobody giving better hugs than I can. And maybe someday we'll have like a Boston Brian meetup and I can show you guys that. So much appreciated. I'll see you Tuesday. Thank you so much, SFL. Thank you to everybody else that contributed today in the chat. Moms, Amesy, Kristen, thank you so much. Sammy, Joe, Carl, Tony, Bicycle Mike, David, Slacks, DPD, Dame Dog, Karen. Thank you to Jenny Faye and Jennifer. Obviously, SFL rounding it out today. Much, much appreciated for keeping the lights on here. And I will, like I've said now 3 times, see you Tuesday. I don't like leaving. I don't like leaving. I could do this all day with you guys. I think you're fantastic. I know the news that we talk about is shit, but you guys make it you make it worthwhile. You make it it's less abrasive, let's just say, to be able to do it here with you in this community. And I think it makes it kind of easier to sift through as long as you're talking with the right people and have the some like-minded people in the community. So all right, big salute. I'm out. See you Tuesday, fourth time. Inola. Hold on. Time out. I'm back. Don't go anywhere. One sec. Housekeeping. Forgot the housekeeping show notes. So make sure everybody signed up at patreon.com/Boston Brian is looking for the link for the Zoom tomorrow night. So I usually put the Zoom link out at about 1 o'clock, midday-ish on the Patreon app. So if you check that out on there, if you're getting access, if you're in one of the 3 levels that gets access to the Zoom tomorrow night, make sure you're looking out for that. And obviously, please head over to bostonbrian.com. Check out the link that goes to our Blunt Politics merch site. You can also check out the Blunt Politics merch site on my Shopify if you search it out there. But fantastic fucking designs on there. Again, it's really depressing sometimes that we don't have the community. We don't have the numbers here that I believe we should to get the word, to get the awareness out there. Just how good our merch is here. So again, if you're wondering, if you're curious, head over to bostonbrian.com, click on the Blunt Politics merch link, and check out all of the sweatshirts. We got hoodies, we got fucking tank tops and hats and mugs. And I'm not talking about this like shitty, generic bullshit small channel design. Like, I'm talking about real shit that's gonna fucking get your message across, that has real meaning, real purpose, great designs, pertinent to today's information, pertinent to today's topics. So head over there, check it out. Again, I hope that one day those designs get the recognition that they deserve. And again, we see the kind of success that I think that merch site should see. So, all right, I just had to come back and do some housekeeping notes again. Some areas need to be revamped. Like, we need to start pushing in some other areas where I'm not likely to push as a businessman. Like, that's not my strong suit, but I'm gonna have to start doing more self-promotional things. I'm gonna have to start asking more and more for people to contribute to the show, where again, in other aspects, we are very much lacking as far as support from bigger creators. Again, very appreciative of people like Jesse Dollamore, Jake Bro, Preston Stewart, and others that have given us the time of day, given us the opportunity to speak to one another. But again, as far as larger creators, larger platforms, doing the dirty work, doing the good deeds of uplifting and kind of promoting smaller creators that are out here espousing these progressive beliefs that so many believe in. It's kind of, we have to make up for it on our own. And where this is the way that we do pay the bills here, then I have to start putting some more stock in our ability to make this a not an extremely profitable venture, but just one that is keeping my head above water. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for at the end of the month, to have more money than the bills actually stack up. And at some point, we'll have that done. I promise. We'll get there. At this point, we're going to continue to rob Peter to pay Paul to bring you guys the news any way we possibly can. So, all right, I'll see you guys. I just had to do the housekeeping notes. I got to get better at it. If you guys don't want to see, again, green juice ads anytime soon. Okay? So, all right, I'm out of here. I'll see you Tuesday. I love you guys. Appreciate you. What's up, Jorge? You cracked me the fuck up with that one.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
You guys can continue this conversation too on the Boston Brian Discord. There is a Discord. You guys want to continue the conversation? You guys want to, talk about some of these continued topics and stuff? Head over to the Discord.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
We're inviting Americans from all across the country to come. For miners, do we love miners? I love miners.
Oh, go fuck yourself.
Call them dumps, big massive dumps.
You know what uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things. Like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things.
It feels so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful out. Give yourself a round of applause. You're so lovely. Everyone's so lovely.
Brian, you're drunk. You're drunk.
Referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small.
Always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, he's taller than me. He's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2".
For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
I'm just dandy. I got a bowl of chocolate pudding in my underpants.
I said mud, I said crud. You fall into some crud or something?
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis. I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Oh, get those lights on! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off.
They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated?
The big